Yes, we did.
All right. I'd like to call the Bristol Select Board meeting to order on Monday, October 24th, 2022. Item 1, review agenda for addition, removal, or adjustment of any items.
Eric has prices for a sidewalk and on Maple Street and the slope repair behind Howden Hall. I don't know if we want to put that on or if we just want to do it during his report.
I think the Maple Street one will require an action.
Free to leave.
The Maple Street one will require an action by us, correct?
Well, actually, both of them probably would, because if we're requesting authorization to use reserve funds. The sidewalk on Maple Street would be the sidewalk reserve fund. And, well, actually, the stormwater one, depending on the price, might just come out of Eric's budget, or I'm not sure where. Roads, the roads reserve fund.
Let's do, if everyone's okay with this, let's do 1A. So we'll do it after our police location discussion before the Lawrence Memorial Library front porch.
Okay.
That'd be okay. Okay, and then it's not.
So both of those together, kind of put together.
Yeah, Maple Street sidewalk, and then it was Howden Hall slope repair.
Yeah, the culvert that discharges behind the building.
Okay, that's right. Okay. All right, excellent. Item 2, overview of Zoom meeting operation procedure, rules for participation. Please mute your microphones if you're on Zoom and be recognized by myself if you wish to speak. Item 2, public forum. This is area for anyone to discuss 5-minute stops on items that are not on this evening's agenda. Jim.
Hi, guys. Suggestively, scrap this idea of having a permit issued for right-of-way work. With the economy the way it is, you're only going to be hurting a small, self-employed guy. It's not necessary for the amount of times that there's ever been an incident that I can recall. Why bother with that? You know, and I heard prices thrown out $100, $500. You know, maybe the big companies like CVPS and all them can afford it, but the average small guy can't afford it. So let's not get involved in that, okay, guys? Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy.
I didn't hear what the subject was.
It was the cost for working in the right of way, the charge for that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Seeing or hearing none, we'll move on. Item 3, department head roundtable. Let's start with Eric.
I can give his report. He's going on vacation tomorrow. He really don't care.
And we're done. Anything of note, Eric?
I don't remember what I told you last time, but we got 2 trucks, plow fronts are on, they're ready. We did a bunch of maintenance and servicing today. And then like Peter said, I'm on vacation next week, or this week. So I got a list made up, and I went to Peter, so he's all up on date on what's going on, and so if he needs to be available, he will be, he said, to check in with the guys, so.
Perfect. How did the repair work go over by Basin Street? It was a big hole the last time I saw it. How did that turn out?
Good. That's all done. The last heavy rain that we got, it worked well.
Oh, good.
I think we got it fixed temporarily. It's definitely not a permanent repair by no means, but
okay.
It should last for a little bit.
Okay.
Till we figure out what we're gonna do.
That's on our list for the Basin Street project anyway, which is good. But that's good to hear. Any questions for Eric?
I can't believe he's got 7 weeks vacation total, and he's going to use some of it.
Are you using 7 weeks? We're not going to see you for a couple months.
Oh, no, I'll be gone.
Okay, that's great. Good. I'm glad that he's actually using his vacation. Fantastic. That's the best news that Eric has given us in a long time.
Yes.
All right, let's move on with Anthony, Treasurer's Office.
Yep. What I've been working on, just to start, is as Peter Ryan is slowly working his way to officially retiring, as we all know. So I've spent a lot of time working with him just to get the other side of what my office does, so to speak. There's a couple things that he's been showing me, and we're finalizing a couple of the reconciliations so we can hopefully give him the proper goodbye, seeing as he's been here quite some time. Another thing that I've been working on is today officially starts the audit for FY22. I know that we just finalized FY21, but I will tell you, it is significantly easier the second time around.
It's already done. Fantastic.
They're just
Just fill in the blanks.
Yeah, they're just reviewing everything that's been submitted, and if they come up with stuff that they want additionally, then we give it to them.
Right.
But we're in very good shape in that regard.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Any questions for Anthony?
Taxes are due November 15th.
Yes, the 15th.
Okay.
Thank you for that reminder. All right, thank you, Anthony. Moving on to Sharon, Town Clerk.
The election is in 2 weeks from tomorrow. We're starting to get more requests for the school merger ballots. That's the big focus right now, is the merger and fielding a whole bunch of other calls for, we've got quite a few taxes coming in, water payments are coming in, so we're moving along.
Great. Yeah, I'll continue to post about the election and how you can get materials and what you need and when you can submit and when you can actually drop off, things like that. I posted one already and I'll sort of repeat that. As for the merger, I saw a post on Front Porch Forum regarding confusion about the school merger being a merger of the schools together, but it's really a district merger. It's not about merging the buildings or merging middle school and high schools, things like that. That's the district itself. So just to clear that confusion. Any questions for Sharon this evening? All right, thank you, Sharon. Bruce, Police Department.
Thank you. I actually have a couple of things this evening. Next Monday is Halloween. And as we know, Bristol is very, very, very busy for Halloween. So I want to remind anybody that's going to be out driving to please be cautious, and pedestrians, please use the crosswalks as much as possible. We're out there trying to assist as we always do, but we want to make sure it's a safe and fun Halloween for everybody. Our new vehicle has arrived in Middlebury. Going to do some final inspection on some of the things before we pick it up, but we hope to pick it up this week. After we pick it up, we will need to put the lettering on, lights, and just move some of the equipment into the from the old one into the new one. So we've been busy at the police department. I don't always give much of an update, and I think that's a disservice for the hardworking officers that we have. Josh Turner has been working on our property and evidence. We have a pile of items there. He's been diligently working through that, preparing to enter it into our new software program to assist us in keeping these items moved out as quickly as we can. Francis Smith has been working on setting up our SharePoint. So we have access to all of our forms digitally. And so we can have everything more accessible and as we update it. And I want to thank the board for authorizing me to fill our grant position. I'm happy to announce that Andrew Graham, who works for us part-time, who will be starting full-time November 2nd as a sergeant. He comes with a lot of experience. He's been in law enforcement, I believe it's about 15 years now. He worked for the department. He's worked for the Essex Police Department. He worked at the school as a wellness coordinator. He's worked for emergency management, the Vermont Emergency Management. Currently, he's working at the Criminal Justice Training Council. So he comes with a lot of experience, a wealth of knowledge that's going to be a huge benefit to us. And the first thing he's going to work on is to finish what we started when we started reviewing our policies and procedures. We have downloaded quite a few policies from VLCT, and he's going to take the time to go through it to assure that we have the most acceptable standards and we have the most current policies. That's what I have.
Well,
Awesome.
that's fantastic news. Congratulations on that.
Fantastic news. Welcome aboard, Andrew.
Yeah, that's great news. Any questions for Bruce? Okay. I'd just like to thank Bruce and the department. I see the officers daily as I drop off my child at kindergarten, and I think it's a great service that they provide for the community in terms of safety with school buses at Bristol Elementary School. So thank you and the officers for doing that every day.
Yes, we also, when we're finished at the elementary school, we go over to the high school. So we're
That's right. That's great. Thank you very much. All right. Let's take a look at my list here. Who have I forgotten? Meredith, Bristol Recreation Department.
All right. Well, we had a successful murder mystery dinner October 1st, so that was pretty exciting. We have a few events coming up that are around Halloween. We have a Halloween party at the Holly Hall on Friday, and then we have Pumpkins in the Park on Saturday. And I believe also one of the grades over at BES will be bringing over pumpkins to put on display over at the Holly Hall. And then we've got our December holiday events already planned, and flyers are going out tomorrow. So we're all set for that. The Holly Hall I've been getting once a day requests to rent out the Holly Hall. So just a few things in the future. Rusty DeWeese is coming back in February. A few private parties, a couple of really cool presentations that are based around adventure and outdoors in Vermont. So just keep an eye out for all those events as they come up. Freddie is amazing. He came in 110%. He has taken it on to do a 50s club. So on every Wednesday, starting November 2nd, we'll be doing 50s club at the Holly Hall from 10 to 12. And there's a couple of presentations. He's put together some movies that we'll be showing. So we're trying to reach out to the senior citizens of Bristol and the surrounding area. So we're hoping that that'll grow.
Hey.
Hold on. I said that was like 70 club, and then it was the 60 club, and now it's 50. I'm only 2 years shy of 50, so. But yeah, so it's exciting, and I just got to say it's I really want to give a shout out to Sharon and everybody downstairs for just being amazing and good people, and being able to use everybody down there as a resource. And Eric.
Terrific.
He's not downstairs. He's a great resource.
Downstairs right now.
Yeah.
That's true. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions for Meredith? All right. And then finally, we'll do Jill from the Water Department.
I want to be where she is.
Yeah.
I want to be where my Zoom is too.
only. So since the last time, the winterization of the water system is almost complete. The only thing we really have left to do is, we've got our checklist right here. Open the blow off at Sargent's, turn the water off at the rec field. And that's it. That's it. So we have not opened the blow off at Sargent's yet because we've had some warmer weather and we don't really want to waste the water. And the rec field turnoff is per request of those that run the rec field. So almost there. The water bottle filler has been winterized and not the hydrants that need to be winterized. So it's almost all done. All of the riser covers have been updated at the septic field, which was one of the items on the engineer's inspection report. The 90-degree had been done a couple months ago, and all that's left is to just re-brick a structure. So we're getting close to having everything done on the engineer's inspection report too, so that we can clear everything up and make the state smile for that one. We did get our pump back from Roger. So we're just looking for the right day to get that scheduled to reinstall. Or are we going to wait for the new one? Yeah, we are going to put it in. Yep. So that's the, all kind of good news, things moving in the right direction. And we've got a pretty huge project with the bond vote coming up, and had fun talking to the state about that today, and just understanding funding and forgiveness and schedules and all the different paperwork that's required to make these things happen. Apparently there are lots of different separate things that all have to happen. So we're getting there.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. Any questions for Jill?
Just a comment. She summarized our afternoon meeting quite well. Efficiently.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's move on. Item 4, Pine Street Waterline Replacement Bond Vote Public Information Meeting.
I'll just start by saying this is the first of 2 public information meetings. The next one will be November 7th. It'll be a special meeting of the Select Board, and that will be the only item on the agenda. And we will have more time to get the word out. This one was advertised through Front Porch Forum, through posted notices, through Facebook and Instagram.
So I've been approached by a number of people out of the water district saying, what's this bond vote all about? And I think we need to make it very clear that this bond will be paid for by the water district.
Correct.
And we just need approval from the whole town to get the bond. Some people are nervous about paying for water when they don't get it, and I informed them that that is not the case. But if they're asking me, there are other people that don't know. So I don't know what the best way to make sure that we get the most people we can to understand that. But I think it's something we have to try to do.
That's a very good point. Thank you.
I have tried, but there are many people outside the district that don't even want to vote on it. They won't even take the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they don't vote on it, it's
a no.
It's a no if they don't vote on it.
Well, it's a not.
It's a no
not
vote.
enough. Yeah, it's a.
If they don't vote, it's not going to jeopardize. If they don't understand and they vote no, that
Right.
could hurt.
Right.
But we've had a lot of people that aren't even taking it, that are outside the district. They're like, we're not in it. We're not going to take it.
Yeah, as long as we don't get more no's than yeses, it'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, as I post the information about the voting, I can do specific posts about the bond vote for Pine Street and what that entails and what it means.
That would be very good.
Yep,
It just has to be clear that we need their approval to bond, but they're not paying for it.
Right.
Okay. And yeah, I'll work on the terminology and I'll share it with Val, and it can be something as simple as that in terms of seeking town approval for the bond vote for water district residents or something like that. So
yeah.
Okay. Yep. I
That'd
can
be
work on that.
helpful.
Not a problem. Yep.
So tonight with us is Steve Palmer, the town engineer, and Jill. Steve has prepared a presentation to help summarize some of the information that has brought us to this day and the steps moving forward. So I will turn it over to Steve, and I made him a co-host so he can share his screen.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Okay. Start up top here. All right, we'll make this pretty quick. I think everybody's somewhat familiar with Pine Street. We put this together pretty quickly today.
Right.
You obviously know Valerie and Jill pretty well. I'm Steve Palmer, for those of you that don't know me, with VTM Engineering. I took this project over from Green Mountain Engineering when they closed. And our primary mission on this piece of it, there's really three pieces, right? There's a preliminary engineering report. We'll get into that in a minute, which Green Mountain Engineering did. There's a second piece of this, which is really the engineering design work, the bid specifications and the permits necessary to be able to build the project and to be able to put it out to bid. Okay, and that's really been the focus here the last few months for me. And then obviously the third piece of that is construction, which we're going to get to here in a few minutes. Okay, I think everybody knows what this is. The proposal today is to replace.
We can't see your screen. If you're sharing your screen, we can't see it.
Okay, so here we go. It's better. How's that?
Nope.
It's thinking.
Or not.
Or not. It's uploading.
It might be a large file.
It might be. Valerie, have you got this? I sent this to you guys earlier. Can you pull this up?
We made suggested some edits from the last one.
I made both of those and I can correct them on the fly.
So I don't have the most current version then.
I think there are only two. I can correct this on the fly if you can just pull it up.
Okay. Hang
Sorry,
on.
it doesn't seem to be loading. Yeah, it's a pretty large file.
Let me find it.
That kind of thing only happens when you're on a stream with 100 people.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And the basic overview of this project is to replace water lines that currently run, I think, the full length of Pine Street.
That's right.
Are around 1907, I believe. Is that correct?
1905. Good memory.
Or 1905? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I'm getting old, but I wasn't around back then either.
So for folks that don't know, that's what this project is.
Can you see that?
Yeah, but I don't see any water line. All I see is pavement.
we need to replace that too. Look at that stuff.
Yeah, really. It's all alligator track. Okay, next slide, please. All right, we've gone through that one. Next slide, please. Okay, so you can see, and I'm sorry, I'm using my cursor and it doesn't work very well, obviously. But the proposal is to go from North Street, which is over on your right, all the way to the town garage. It's about 2,600 feet total. Thank you, Valerie. From one end to the other. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, a little bit of background. As you folks on the select board know, Bristol contracted Green Mountain Engineering in 2020 to conduct the preliminary engineering report. Really, what the preliminary engineering report did, it was a very in-depth study of the entire Bristol water distribution system. Okay, they looked at every piece of pipe that you folks have in the ground today. They evaluated the age, the condition, valves, piping, everything in between. It was completed in August of 2021 and the state approved that the same month. Next slide, please. Okay, so the PER findings in a nutshell, you've got about 58,000 feet of water main. It's a lot. It's a lot more than people think, especially in a small town. You know, the recommendations out of the PER, you've got about almost half, honestly, 33,000 feet that they recommended replacing. The great majority of the line that they recommended replacing was because it was put in 1905. Okay, it's a water line. Typically, you know, an anticipated life expectancy is about 60 to 80 years. Sorry, and you're pushing almost 125 years old with this line. It's way beyond its useful life at this point. So it's unlined. That's another good point with this. Okay, it's cast iron pipe, which is unlined, and what that means in today's day and age, if you were using cast iron pipe to replace a water main, you'd be using ductile iron instead of cast. But still, they would line that with cement, which back then in 1905 they didn't have that technology. So it's bare cast iron, and what happens, you get a lot of mineral buildup on the inside of the pipe, and we're going to touch on that, and Jill's going to talk a little about what she's seen with some of your repairs, but it's really affected your flows. And Green Mountain Engineering documented quite a bit of that. We'll touch on that as we get a little further ahead. The other, what they proved out of this, they did a bunch of hydrant flow tests, and they confirmed out of this that you're not getting the required fire flows out of your hydrants to be able to satisfy the insurance services offices. So, it has a direct impact on the fire department's ability to be able to, fight a fire, property values down the road, your insurance rates, and all that stuff. So part of the goal in coming up with recommendations out of the PER was to make sure that those things got addressed. There really is no viable alternative to distribution system replacement. That's an important part of this. When it gets to a certain point, you can't simply reline it. The existing water distribution system leakage rate. That's a really good point. They looked at the leakage rates. Basically, the leakage rates mean how much water do you bill today versus how much are you pumping through your master meter. That's really what it means. Okay. And the difference is really your leakage rate. Okay. It's lost water. It's water you're not able to recover. So the majority today of the water that your system pumps is lost, okay, through leaks and other things. According to the American Water Works Association, the average municipal system has a leakage rate of about 16%. You guys are over 55% today. And a lot of that, based on the findings of GME, is due to this old cast iron pipe. I would agree 100% with that finding. Some things will happen if the distribution system isn't replaced. Obviously, you're going to have decreased water system reliability over time, right? You're going to have more and more breaks. Ever increasing leakage rate, right? These joints aren't going to get any better. This is only going to get worse over time. You guys sit on 100 feet of gravel. One of the issues that you have sitting on it, it's great in a lot of ways. One of the issues, obviously, is that when you have a water system leak, it doesn't come to the surface. So they're difficult to find in a lot of regards. You have significantly increased emergency repair costs over time, and those are only going to get worse for you, decreasing pavement quality because you're going to start to have a lot more repairs. You're going to be digging up a lot more streets is what it means. You've got increased potential for isolation valve failures. This is a big issue. You've got valves in the ground that are pushing 125 years old. I know that Jill can speak a little bit to her experiences with some of that. I can tell you some of my own in another municipality. We had a similar situation. We weren't at 125 years old, but certainly over 80 years old, and we couldn't shut off an 18-inch water main that broke. We ended up in a circumstance where we either had to shut off the city from water to repair this, or we were going to shut off water to all of Chittenden County. And it was pretty catastrophic. We lost water to the city of Winooski for 3 days. And it was a significant issue. It took a long time for people to forget about that. And we spent a lot of time and money, by the way, on coming up with significant repair plans to make sure that didn't happen in the future, and maintenance plans. Okay, obviously increased potential for catastrophic failures. That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? You got a lot of these valves and other things in the ground that may not shut off in an emergency at this point. You got an increased risk for distribution system contamination. Jill can talk a little bit to that. Increased operational costs, including electricity for pumps. You're adding a lot more chlorine than you need, and we realize you're losing the majority of the water to the compound. Whoops. Is that me?
I don't know.
Sounds like water. And we have a water break.
Yes, planned sound effect.
Good timing. And obviously, all of your equipment is working overtime, right? It's working a lot more than it needs to. Your pumps are working a lot harder than they need to. Your chlorine system's working a lot harder than it needs to. So all of those things are going to wear out a lot faster than you would normally expect. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, then the Green Mountain Engineering, you know, at the end of their report, really, this is part of their summary. They worked with the town of Bristol on coming up with a list of priorities in terms of projects. The important thing was not necessarily what order these go in. The important thing was getting these on the state's radar in terms of what needed to be replaced. And that's important from a funding perspective. So in other words, you folks may say next year, you know what, Munsell really isn't as big a priority as Pleasant Street or whatever else. Okay, that isn't going to affect you from a funding perspective. You guys have the ability to be able to decide which one of these should be the next priority. I want to make that very clear, but they did a pretty good job, I think, of summarizing all of the priorities on here. And over on the right-hand side, which is a little bit tough to see, they put the rationale for replacing each piece of line. Okay. Anybody have any questions on that part? Because that's really a critical piece to this whole thing.
And you can see that Pine Street, 3 sections of Pine Street are listed at the top. And the rationale is that it's beyond its useful life.
Right, it's 1905 water line, but you'll find almost all of this is. There's a few pieces that are not. And generally speaking, the reason that they had suggested replacing those pieces was that you couldn't reach the required fire flows. It was too small of a line. Okay. Okay, project timeline. Do you know that the town contracted with GME? GME left in February, they closed the doors in February of 2021. Alan decided it was time to retire. I picked that up in July of this year. We are now through final design. The bid specifications are done. The permit to construct has been submitted. It's in the public comment period right now. I expect that you folks will have that permit in the next couple of weeks. Let's see, November. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Final construction permit is anticipated. So everything in yellow that you see is what we anticipate. It's not happened yet. Is what we anticipate is coming shortly. November 8th, you folks have the Pine Street bond vote scheduled. That's an important piece of your funding, by the way. You're going to score a lot higher on the priority list funding when you apply for this funding. January 2023, the final approvals from DWSRF, Water Investment Division. We worked a little bit on that today and got a list of items that they want from us. I think everything is pretty well done at this point. We just need to submit it to them. So in February of 2023, Valerie can talk a little bit more about that if you'd like, but the DWSRF priority list application needs to be submitted. Advertising formal, this is what we're anticipating today. The advertising and formal bid process for Pine Street should begin in February. You're going to want to bid this over the winter months when your contractors are hungriest, right? They're looking for work to fill, the following year. If you wait until summertime when everybody's schedules are filled up, you're going to have a very difficult time getting good pricing. So that's an important piece of this when you advertise and when you bid it. Bids would be due in March. April, we do a formal bid review and I'd provide a recommendation to the town for award based on that review. May, we're anticipating bid award. The reason that's spread out a little bit is that DWSRF does not actually award their loans until June, typically of each year. So we probably could do all of this in 45 days if we really wanted to, but we're probably going to want to push that out a little bit. So in June, we'd have contract signing. By my rough schedule, July through September construction. It's going to take a little while once you award a project to a contractor simply to get the materials right now. I'm hearing some good things in terms of supply chain issues being resolved, or some of the supply chain issues being resolved. Remember, you're using federal money here. This is an EPA loan. So with an EPA loan, there comes Buy America requirements. So anything metallic has to be made in the United States of America. The issue with that is that the order times for some of these valves, things of that nature, are considerable right now. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, Jill, are you with us?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were reclining in your chair on the beach.
So what that is the inside of basically a 4-inch water line that is now maybe 2 inches on the interior. So now instead of having with each inch of water line, you get a particular flow. For every inch you go up, you get 4 times the flow. So we're 8 times less flow with 2 inches open in our 4-inch line than we should be. So there's quite a bit less water that can get through there. It's also why when hydrant flushing is done that your water gets so orange, is because that's all the buildup that's in there, and it changes the direction and the viscosity of the water and starts scraping some of that off and giving it to you for a day or two. So by having a coated line, which you'd probably end up with ductile iron or blue brood or some type of, more current water line material, you're not going to have this kind of buildup inside your line because it's not going to stick the way that this does to the metals. They're not going to have the same type of bonding. So that will be good for water quality. It will be good for fire flows, etc. Yeah. So next, that is what one of the service lines looked like. That was probably 3 years ago on a Saturday, nice sunny morning, when everybody had better things to do, but the water decided to burst out of Pine Street. So that is what is that called, say?
Corporation stop.
Oh, no, I know what that is.
It's a bronze fitting from the corporation
Yeah.
stop to the cast iron. To the
Yeah.
ductile iron, to
So
the cast iron pipe.
That's what those old cast iron, that's what the steel pipe looks like in the ground. A lot of the service lines are still original. There's probably been 7 to 12 service line replacements on Pine Street in the last 10 years. You can tell from all the new stripes of pavement and patches of pavement along Pine Street. If it looks like a quilt pattern to you, it's because for many, many years, this water system and this board has wanted to do a water line replacement on Pine Street and are holding back on paving it until the water line is in. So if you want new pavement, you need to get your water lines done. That's what that service line looks like on the outside and inside. So as far as water quality goes and like keeping bacteria out, it's pretty gross. When they're leaking, they can let bacteria in from the ground. And that is the new copper line. And that's what your 1905 water line looks like, your cast iron on the outside too. So it's just.
And the project includes replacing the main line, but also the lines to the curb stop.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. That's a good view too of the water line. Jill pointed that out. So one of the reasons I think you're having such high leakage rates is in 1905, they didn't have mechanical joints. They didn't have all of the great things that we have today in terms of connecting these pipes, right? So most of that was done with oakum, which is it's kind of like straw. So it was a bell joint where one fits inside of the other, and they would pack the annular space between the two pipes with straw essentially, and then pour lead in between. And that was the joint, and that was the construction technology of the day. So, and you can imagine 25 years later for conversation, there's been some movement of that line, and those joints, probably most of that oakum is gone at this point. And by his left foot, there's a joint right there. And I would imagine the great majority of those joints throughout the town are starting to leak at this point, and probably will get worse over time. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I didn't really want to go through this in detail. I just want to show you folks, here are the design plans. If anybody wants to look at them, I can bring a set down and leave them the town hall with Valerie. You folks can go through them, and you can look at where the existing water lines are. And if folks happen to live at any particular residence and they want to see what's going on in front of their residence or where things are going to start and end, you're more than welcome to do that. We also, you see the dash line on here. We did design the stormwater system for the street, and we have placed that on the plans, and it was important to do that. We're not proposing to install that right now, but we needed to make sure wherever the water lines and the future storm lines are going to be, that we had sufficient distance for them to cross, because, you know, the stormwater lines, we don't have any give on. They need to run at a certain slope from point A to point B. The water line, on the other hand, we've got some ability to move it up and down. So we want to make sure that we had 18 inches of separation, which is required by Vermont statute. And also, if we were going to be shallow anywhere, if we're going to be above 6 feet of cover, I mean, that water line, that we had the opportunity to insulate some of it. We have a small section that we need to do that on. So I don't think we need to go through each one of these, but if folks are interested, I can bring by a set and leave them with Valerie, and you can look at them in detail. Okay. Yeah, you can see in the profile there, manholes, and those are all future things, the things that are dashed. And the water line will be below that in gray. Yep, there you go. Here's the water line, the future water line below it. Okay, and each of those little circles you see in between, those are service lines going to individual houses. Yep. Okay, we can probably roll right on through these slides.
I'll just type up and say how important I think it is to see those profiles, taking into consideration what's underground and how close they are when you're putting in a new water line or a new stormwater line, so that you're not trying to put a stormwater line through a water line or
Right.
vice versa. So this kind of planning is really quite important, even if all the elements can't be done at the same time.
Right. Agreed. So here's, there's a bunch of detail pages. You guys probably don't care too much about that, but the contractor is going to care a lot about this, right? This is really where the money's spent, is in all of these details. So, okay, next slide, please. Jill, you want to take this?
Sure. So the anticipated loan amount, and that's based on total project cost, is $940,000. As of right now, it's anticipated that the loan would be forgiven 50%, meaning they loan us the entire amount. We're able to borrow that money. It pays for all steps of this contract. And then when it comes time to pay it back, they say, oh, hey, there's 50% forgiveness. You only have to pay back $470,000 of the $940,000. So that's pretty fantastic, given the fact that there's a lot more water lines to replace in order to catch up on all this 1905. So to get as much forgiveness as possible is super important. And especially at this low interest rate of 2%, that's also super important. So the anticipated total annual payment of the bond would be about $21,000. If we divide that by 637 users, just evenly, we don't try to like figure this out for large users versus small users, etc. And then divide that by 12. The anticipated average monthly rate increase would be like $2.75.
Jill, where did the 50% forgiveness come from? Because we got burnt on the West Street water line with that.
That came directly from Amy, who's running the drinking water SRF program.
That you may actually be eligible for more than 50%. It'll depend. You won't know that until the loan gets executed, but they'll also, like pretty much every project that DWSRF funds, remember, these are EPA funds. Pretty much and the goal of this isn't just to loan you the money. They want to see these projects move forward. They want to see infrastructure and all of these towns and cities get replaced. That's one of the EPA's primary goals.
It was a USDA. Was that
that could have been a rural development?
That's different. That's rural development.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, they told us we were in the median income and we qualified for 50%, and then we bonded, and then we had to eat crow and go back and tell the general public that we had to pay the whole. I think we ended up with like 5% forgiveness. Which didn't look good on us.
They're going to tell you in writing. They're going to tell this to you in writing at the time the loan gets executed, what exactly your loan forgiveness is. It's going to be at least 50%. And Jill and I were conservative in putting that together. And the reason I say at least 50%, it could be more based on the town's median income. If you were below the average median income for Vermont, you probably will be eligible for an additional 10%, but you're not going to know that until the time the loan gets executed. So we were fairly conservative and said, let's just assume for this conversation that it's 50%.
Furthermore, the timing of the contract signing is after the loan approval, because
That's right.
if something changes and all of a sudden it's not borrowing 400, it's not actually paying back 470, but paying back 940, then that is a big difference. And that is a lot more money. And that is not very attractive funding.
Right.
And there'll be a disclosure through the bid process that the town has the right to reject or cancel any of the bid process going, and reject any of the proposals.
I've done quite a few of these. I feel pretty comfortable you guys are going to, I'm not worried about the 50% loan forgiveness. That's Jill and I's job, is to make sure that you get at least that. And we're going to, our job is to fight for every penny we can get. And it's not, I look at the expenditures of taxpayer dollars pretty carefully, but my job is to make sure from a taxpayer perspective that the local taxpayers are taken care of first, the state taxpayers second, and the federal third. And that's the way I view the project. You folks need to get the most benefit locally that you can get out of this.
And we need to emphasize that we're talking about ratepayers, not
That's right.
taxpayers.
Thank you for that clarification.
Oh,
Yes.
sure. It's easy to slip up on that.
It's true. And that's why it's that, $2.75 a month per user, because this is not going on to the tax rate. This is on the water rate.
Right.
So
And the term that they use is water rent, water rent increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that was one of the changes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So as someone in the water district, I would pay that additional $275 a month, and that would be part of my water bill. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, and water rate users, that's the same as who is in the water district, which is essentially the former village of Bristol.
There are people not in the village that are in the water district.
Correct. Yeah, but I would say the majority. But you're right. There are some that are sort of outside that have also in the water district.
I'm sure for people that are connected to the water system, they're probably well aware because they get a water bill. But
yeah,
I think it is important for people to understand that they're voting on. The entire town is voting, and they have to understand that by voting yes on this project, they're voting to encourage this project to move forward and replace some very old water lines that are going to end up hurting your road and wasting a whole lot of resources of the town, really.
Agreed. Okay, what's the
Steve,
next slide?
Steve, I don't want to muddy things up too much, but the stormwater, it's a separate element of the project.
It is.
What's the process to move that forward?
It really comes down to funding. We could have combined both of these into this project if we had the funding. It's my understanding that the funding for that is not there today. It's about, by my estimates, it's about $550,000. So it's a significant amount of money. You could go through, there's a bunch of different ways to fund this, and you can fund it all locally. You can go through CWSRF, and do a similar program to what you're doing with DWSRF.
Does that require a bond approval?
It does. It's a very similar process. So, and it's, these processes, this stuff for these type of projects usually take 1.5 years to unfold. By the time you begin to apply for the funding and do the design work and do the permitting work, you have to follow EPA's process, and it's long and it's laborious. But from a ratepayer's perspective, if you have $1 million project and you only have to pay back $500,000, it's probably well worth the time.
So with the stormwater, if we choose not to do that at the same time, how does that affect us in terms of what we put in, and then a year or two later we do the stormwater? Are we ripping up a lot of this,
Brand
or
new
at least the
pavement.
street in terms of the road? How much is involved in terms of taking apart what we just potentially created or built out?
When I did the design for the water system, I did the design for the stormwater system simultaneously. So we kept as much separation between the two as we could, so that the point you just brought up wasn't an issue during construction. There are several crossings that we couldn't get around. When you come to an intersection, for instance, you've got catch basins on all four sides of an intersection, right? So somewhere you're going to have a crossing, and those kind of conflicts were what we wanted to make sure that we took care of, and didn't put a water system in, and then you folks come in to put a stormwater system in, and all of a sudden your stormwater lines are running into your water lines, right? That's an issue.
Except I think what he's asking is like, how much of this is paving? Because if you went to put if you did this project next year and repaved the whole road, and then you came back in 5 years and did a stormwater, would you be replacing half that pavement, or would you be making like a crisscross pattern?
So this does not include, well, let's put it this way. It includes repaving in terms of where we trench today, okay? So that trench width I've assumed is 8 feet wide for the entire water line, okay? And the cost estimates do include repaving that trench. It does not include repaving the street after that. So if you folks come back and you say, hey, we need a new wearing course on top of Pine Street, which I think you do at this point, those costs aren't in here. DWSRF isn't going to pay for that.
Got it. So there's just going to be a big stripe and
That's right.
and like water lines coming this way from this project.
Correct.
Okay. Stripe down the middle, stripes coming across at the service lines.
Yeah, that doesn't mean the
It's
town
not-
can't do that. It's just going to be locally funded, right?
I see. And then if we, as Jill said, if we chose to do the stormwater, let's say in 5 years, we would create more patches with areas that we dug up. We're not affecting the water system, the new water pipe that we put in. And then eventually we would probably just need to do the entire length of the street in terms of paving. And then you would remove all the patches would be gone then, and you'd have a clean road.
Correct. And we generally try to keep the stormwater line for that very reason, to one edge of the street or the other to try to limit the damage. And you can see that. I mean, obviously we have some places that we had to cross. There's one right in front of you, right? But generally speaking, if you follow the stormwater line, it's either on the edge of pavement or off the edge of pavement on one side of the street or the other, as much as we felt comfortable doing.
Within the right of way.
That's correct. In the right of way.
So let's say we have the option, hypothetically, to do both projects at the same time. How much more complication does that add in terms of the construction, in terms of people living on that street, if you had both of those projects happening?
I don't think it adds that much complication. It obviously adds a lot of cost, and it adds some time to the construction process, right? So we're going to add a couple of months to the construction process. Conservatively, I'm assuming today, this is a pretty linear project. I mean, it's not, you guys aren't in an urban area where you have tons of underground utilities. So I think this project is going to go fairly quickly, actually. I'm estimating 90 days, and I think that's very conservative. And the reason I did that is I think you're going to get better pricing than if I try to squash this into 45 days. And your contractors say, we're really busy and we can't afford to put 15 people on this project. We're only going to put 8. And, and they're going to drag it out. But if we really condense the timeline and force them to do it in a very short period of time, they're probably going to throw a pretty big number at this.
So Val, what are our options in terms of the stormwater? Do we have options at this point, or are we clearly separated in terms of those being two different projects?
Well,
We don't have time for a second bond vote.
other meeting, there's town meeting.
Yeah.
I have not lately investigated stormwater funding options. I did get stormwater funding for the Basin Street project, but that was different. It's something I can look into. If hypothetically, if I'm able to tap into a resource for stormwater funding and we are able to put a bond vote together for town meeting in March on the subject, how realistic is it that these could be combined? Because you would have already put this out to bid. Let's see, what was the schedule?
You know what, I would want to think about that. You might want to do it as two separate projects, even if they were done together. And I only say that because the finances get somewhat complicated with DWSRF. We just went through this, with another municipality, and it was fine. We had 3 different types of funding, and it gets much more complicated. And I think you're probably not going to want to hold up the funding in DWSRF.
Right.
They've got more money than they know what to do with right now. And my suggestion to any municipality is take advantage of that while it lasts.
Perhaps if the water lines go in the ground and the stormwater lines go in a couple months later from a different funding source and a different project, then after that, the street can be fully paved.
Right. And honestly, I don't really see a lot of additional costs other than mobilization, for instance.
Right. How far away is the stormwater project from permitting and reviews and all that stuff?
There are no permits required for this because you're not adding any additional stormwater.
Okay.
There's no additional stormwater generation. We went through this with the state a year ago.
Okay.
And they were comfortable that there was no permits from their perspective required.
Even though we're going to have a discharge point that we don't have right now.
Correct. It's their permitting is based on stormwater generation, right? You already generate all this stormwater today. You just don't, you deal with it a different way.
Yeah,
So if we were adding additional impervious surface, that would be a different story.
What are the board's thoughts about these 2 projects and trying to do both?
I guess I'd always assumed we were going to do it all at once, but it kind of makes sense not to.
In what respect?
In the fact that the funding, I mean, they're going to patch the road back and then repave it all anyway. We would just hold off on the like you said, the wear coat on the top. And it wouldn't look any different. It wouldn't look any different than it does right now. It'd be all patchwork down through there.
For how long though?
Right.
Oh, I think we need to figure out where the funding's at and if we can afford to do it.
And another consideration about this is because it's a town road and a town stormwater system, it wouldn't be limited to the ratepayers to pay that cost. It would be a town-wide expense like any other road project.
The stormwater and the repaving would be a town-wide, and that's another reason not to muddy the water and put them together, because it's going to be, it was the same thing when we were talking about Firehouse Drive and the water project and the firehouse, and it got so complicated that we were having trouble understanding ourselves, and to try to explain it to everybody else would be a job.
Well,
part of
I can just say that I've been involved with major capital projects that had multiple funding sources, and I got through it. It was not that hard actually to keep track of what was what.
It's not that hard to keep track of it, and it's not that hard for us to understand, but to try to explain it to the public why we're asking for another $500,000 to finish this project up can get, if they're tied together, it can get cumbersome for us.
Right. No
Mhm.
matter how much you
Right.
explain it, there's
Yeah.
gonna be some folks that aren't gonna.
I guess I would
understand.
look at it as two different projects. I mean, if we're doing a bond vote now for the water lines, that's one project. And then if we do a bond vote in March for the stormwater and pavement, stormwater,
Yeah.
that's another project. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that part's okay. It's a matter of the funding availability,
Right.
you know, will we have a, you know,
And if,
50%, you know,
Right, if we,
rate, forgiveness rate, and, you know, what that would be. I mean, if this
Yeah.
275 a person, you can imagine that townwide is gonna be a whole lot less.
right.
I'm not saying, Valerie, I'm not trying to say that the two projects can't happen at the same time. I'm just saying that we need to keep them separate as far as being able to make it clear to people what we're doing.
No, I totally agree with that. That makes perfect sense.
And I guess the way I look at this is, if we're gonna do this, if we can swing this and the funding's there, I'd rather do it all at once and get it done, get it paved, and not wait 5 years
Yeah.
with patchwork and have that road, you know,
Yep,
in pieces.
I agree. With
And
so for
I can tell you that Joel will agree too, because he's already fed up with the road.
Right.
yeah. So for that second bond vote potentially, is that split across? Is that townwide or is that
Correct.
district again?
That'd be
That would be
townwide.
Okay, because it's stormwater.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Like any other roads.
It's road and
Roads,
stormwater,
okay.
not, and it benefits everybody.
Would
Okay.
we have enough, if we plan for next year, to put money in the paving fund, so that wouldn't be part of the bond, right? Or could it be?
Could be part of the stormwater project.
I'm just trying to reduce, I mean, not that
Yeah.
we're gonna pay,
Right.
we're gonna pay it anyway, but if we could avoid
I can-
paying over 30 years.
Right.
If I pave Pine Street completely out of my budget, that would be probably pretty close to the only street I could pave
Yeah.
that year.
Well, that's
That's a big street, number
right.
one,
Yeah, you're
and heavily
probably,
used.
if I had to guess, you're 110,000
Mhm.
to do that, if I had to guess.
Okay.
That's what the materials are right now.
But
Yeah.
maybe we throw in a little extra money in the
Into the
capital
paving.
paving fund in the budget next year, so that if
That's
something
needed.
happens,
Right. Right.
I mean, we're at least at a point where we can talk about that budget-wise.
Steve, is there any more to your presentation for this
Nope.
evening?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add, Jill?
Nope, I'm gonna be psyched to get another one moving.
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much. That was very
Yeah.
informative, and hopefully people watching are more informed as well.
Questions?
And we will do this again on the 7th.
Okay.
Some
Terrific.
variation perhaps. And maybe we'll have more information about stormwater by then.
Okay.
Is
All right,
there,
everyone. Thank you.
is there anybody tuned
Thank you,
in
Steve.
here that has any questions?
Yeah. I see a few people. Feel free to just speak up if you do have a question regarding this particular project.
Onward.
All
Onward.
right.
All right. Thank you both. Thank Jill and thank you, Steve. All right. Item 5, this into regular business now. Number 1, continue discussion regarding options and potential cost proposal from the Cushman Design Group for a future location of the Bristol Police Station behind the fire station and steps forward.
Yes. So Michael, Mike, how do you pronounce your last name?
Purple.
Perpaul. Michael
Perpaul.
Perpaul is
Yes.
with us, and I sent along the proposal that they offered. Michael, do you want to share it on screen, or shall I put it up on the screen?
If you have it ready, that's might as well
Okay.
do that.
Probably not seeing that yet.
a break.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that.
Let's see if this works. Having two screens is awkward sometimes. Can you see that?
Yeah, you see, just scroll up for the top one.
To the top one.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's the proposal. Michael, if you want to just walk us through.
Sure. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, I presented a summary of our 2015 site planning work around the fire station. And there was some thought towards locating the police department at a future time on that same lot. And it sounded like there was enough momentum to ask us for a proposal for this feasibility study to look into that police department location at that same site. So Jamie Simpson with Landmark Engineering and Design, formerly of Green Mountain Engineering, will be involved in a collaborative design process to look at some schemes, development, and presentation of some site plans over the course of 2 to 3 months. So a few board meetings where we'll have some options to take feedback and refine designs on those. Part of the process will be talking with the police and the fire chiefs about their existing facilities to come up with floor plans for the building. So there'll be floor plans as well as site plans to inform this process. And then the third piece that we've provided as a deliverable is a character sketch. So that's a loose hand sketch of a 3D perspective of what the building might look like. Since it's going to be an addition, most likely to the fire station, the aesthetic is already, there's already precedent for what the building materials are likely to be, and we'll look into that. So we find that a 3D representation is sometimes helpful to really round out the presentation. So we have time in here to look into the zoning, town zoning, the state permitting process. Essentially, that informs how big the building can be. The fire department is a mostly wood frame structure. So a 2-story wood frame sprinkler building can be a certain size. And so that's just part of the feasibility process to look at a pretty significant addition to that building. So we've held time here for meetings with the police and fire chiefs, and then collaboration with Jamie's office to produce, a pretty thorough feasibility study that we think at the end you'll have the materials to make a decision of whether or not the site is appropriate for the police department. I'm optimistic that there's plenty of room, that there'll be lots of parking or adequate parking, and that the stormwater and zoning requirements will all be possibly met. So that's really what the study's about. So we provided a fee. We bill hourly, so we provide a range of the fee with the anticipation of being right in the middle of that. It allows us some room if things get a little bit, if some issues arise, we have some room to work through them and recognize those. On the other hand, if things go smoothly and efficiently, then there's some savings on the billing side. So, and Jamie's proposal is attached. Jamie, do you want to say anything about your work?
Yeah, ultimately, just our agreement that was proposed was that we would provide up to 3 site alternatives, trying to give the town the most options for both stormwater, wastewater, parking, and traffic flow, and as well as pedestrian connectivity. Just trying to give as many options as possible and have you have a site that works for the town and is aesthetically pleasing. That's Michael's job there. And then obviously that works for traffic flows and for pedestrian connection.
And Jamie, are you aware that we've got permission from Stony Hill Properties to look into the possibility of using their existing stormwater and maybe eliminating some of ours? I don't even know if that's a possibility, but the ability to do that is there.
I was aware of that, yes.
Okay. Do you think that's an option?
Potentially. It could get a little bit messy with the 2 operational permits being joined together, but through an amendment process, I think it's possible, yes.
I think one of the biggest concerns on the fire department side is going to be parking, and in order to alleviate that concern, we're going to have to probably do something with that stormwater area, although there is a fair amount of space there.
Yeah, there is. And not only that, but, part of this process is for us to decide or to present options for you, which could consider underground storage chambers underneath the parking area as well. So if we can't shift everything into the Stony Hill stormwater discharge or treatment area, then perhaps we look at some other alternatives such as underground storage and infiltration beneath the parking areas.
The chambers, like they were looking, I don't know if you're familiar with what was presented to us on the backside of the park, something along that line.
That's correct. Yeah, they're kind of like an upside down U shape. Yep, that's correct. Open bottom.
Okay.
Cool. So, Joel raised an interesting point when I talked with him this afternoon that my original thought had been that this project would be funded out of the Capital Buildings Fund, which currently has a pretty healthy balance of over $109,000. But Joel raised the point that this is in the police district and that town funds perhaps should not be used on this project, and that somehow police district funds should be used on this project. I don't have an answer for that or where they would come from. I didn't have a chance to check in with Bruce about it before tonight's meeting. So that's a question.
That it is.
We could check. There's a healthy fund, undesignated fund balance that we have.
Okay, that's good to know. What are the board's thoughts on Joel's observation?
Well, now that I think about it, he's absolutely correct.
Yeah, he is.
There's no denying that.
But it's also on town property, not district property.
It's within the district. The fact that it's
Yeah,
on top.
I'm not as concerned with where it is as I am with making sure we're clear about funding and being we're not
townwide.
We're not townwide, but that's not to say that the police department doesn't benefit the whole town. Right. I think Bruce made a valid point when he said, they service, if you even come in from out of town and have an incident, they service those people as well. Mm-hmm. And so is it in the town's best interest I personally think it's in the town's best interest to move this forward, but that doesn't mean people are going to agree with the idea of funding it through with town taxpayers' dollars.
50-50? Hmm. So one question is the select board interested in moving forward with this project, regardless of the funding source? Is this something that, I mean, is the price acceptable and the, yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think we have to, I don't think if we're happy with the numbers, I don't think we have to hash out in front of everybody. And all we have to do is make it clear where the money's coming from once we figure it out.
Yep, I would agree with that. Okay. So the next question is, if I sign this document, say tonight or tomorrow, what's the soonest work can begin?
Whenever they want.
Yeah, if that's a question to me, then likely within 3 to 4 weeks. So before the holidays, and likely into the winter, into 23, depending on the board meeting schedule, if that's affected by holidays, and kind of the pace of it could be. I anticipate it to be 2 to 3 months once we start. So
okay,
that helps.
In the meantime, we'll figure out.
So does the board want to make a motion to accept?
I would make a motion to enter contract with Cushman Design to give us a preliminary.
With Val having authority to sign.
With Val having the ability to sign the
Okay.
contract.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All right. Motion second.
I have one question. Bruce, we were talking about undesignated fund balance. I know we talked about in the past about also using that for your fourth officer average things, and I can't remember what the years were. So I just want to make sure that there's enough in there to do that, to do both.
We can look at the numbers again, but there should be.
Certainly don't want to shortchange you.
Yeah. Any further discussion on this motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand. Aye. All those against, nay. Motion carries.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, Michael and Jamie, for putting this together, and we look forward to working with you.
Your hand, and it takes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Val will be in touch. All right.
You
thank
are
both.
released.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Moving on, we have a 1A, which was added, and this is the Maple Street sidewalk repair and Howden Hall slope repair and discharge pipe repair. Eric, if Eric's still there,
He's sleeping, but he's here.
please come forward.
Let me provide a little context. That when the Maple Street sidewalk was put in a couple of years ago, where this location is, it's elevated, and so the driveway is higher than other areas of the street. And ordinarily, driveways would get a dip, and this one did not. And so the objective here is to install the dip retroactively. And I believe Eric has gone out and gotten some price estimates. And it's proposed to be paid out of the Capital Sidewalk Fund. And I'll tell you the balance of that in a minute.
Okay. Okay, Eric.
Eric, you're Eric. I'm not. Don't look at me. I'm not Eric.
So you've taken a look. So you've taken a look at this, Eric, and it's definitely was installed not in the best way, or.
Well, the issue is that coming up off the road and then flattening out, and it's too much of a hump for the car to clear without scraping.
Yeah.
I believe.
Oh, okay.
And so what the proposal is to slope down to take the sidewalk back and slope down, making the driveway more gradual.
Yeah, cut it down about halfway.
Okay. And you've worked with the property owner?
I talked with her on the phone and also talked with her husband at the site.
I'm here if you need anything from me.
So I guess my question is, are we gonna be compliant? We won't come down too fast. We're not gonna have to go back further to.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to go back on the uphill, on the side towards Pleasant Street. No, side towards Church Street. We'll have to go back one more block there than what I originally figured. Just because the sidewalk goes uphill, headed that way anyways. So to make, like you were saying, to make the gradual slope for ADA, we'll have to go back one more block towards Church Street. But on the downhill side towards West Street, we should be able to stick with just the one block on the other side of the driveway.
And this isn't the only driveway we have to do? Or?
Well, as of right now, this is the only one. But there is potential for the next driveway up. Once this gets done, they may want the same thing. So the price I got is per driveway to do it.
But we're only planning to do one.
We're only planning to do one as of right now, unless the other driveway person.
Did I miss something? How did it get this way?
Yeah, thank you. That was
When the contractor put in the sidewalk, he elevated the sidewalk, what the town requested, above the grass line.
Mhm.
And in doing that, some places he elevated it 6 inches. So with coming off from Maple Street up to on their driveway to the sidewalk, the distance isn't more than 6 feet.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty good incline coming off of Maple Street as it is. Excuse me. And then once the tires go up onto the sidewalk and then come down
The other side.
the other side, it scrapes underneath as soon as the project got done, they originally had an issue with the vehicle that they were driving at that point. And we went down and added some pavement on the entrance to make that end a little higher.
Mhm.
And that seemed to work then. And then now
They went out and brought a Ferrari that doesn't have enough
no ground clearance. So now they can't make it.
Just take the car out of sport mode and then, or just keep scraping and just wearing away, and then.
So I did reach out to Masterson's. I haven't reached out to anybody else yet. If that's what you guys entail.
So the plan is to
cut the sidewalk out,
out.
take the driveway down approximately half of what it is,
I missed that part.
and then reshape it, and then re-pour the sidewalk, gradual down through it, and then back up again.
Well, is that when you say gradual down from like, okay, the driveway's here, sidewalks are here,
Yeah.
so
Right.
you're gonna go down this way? Well, isn't the water gonna then pool?
No.
And you're gonna have
No,
water
because
shoot?
it's above the.
It's still gonna be above the road.
Okay.
So it'll still drain out like it's supposed to. It's no different than, oh crap.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's other driveways around now that are.
I just, like, from the sidewalks going this way, we weren't gonna have a problem.
No,
It's
no, no,
still
so
gonna go this way.
the sidewalk will come down, then it'll go flat across the driveway and then back up.
Okay.
But it will still pitch
Still
towards the
pitch
road.
towards
It'll
the
still
road.
pitch
Right.
towards the road,
Okay,
correct.
well, cause an ice issue in the winter.
No,
Okay.
that's not.
So I guess the other question I have is, you got a price per driveway.
Yeah,
Is that provided they're both done at the same time, or is that
no,
they can be done?
I made that clear that we're only doing one at this time, and then if the other one comes up within, a period of time, I mean, that's probably, the contractor won't hold the price for,
Ever.
a year. But within a period of time, then that would be the price per driveway.
Is the neighboring driveway as egregious as the one that we're talking about?
Not quite as bad as this one, but
Okay.
there's a
But-
potential
but-
there that it
okay.
could be.
They
Okay,
haven't
it's good.
changed, well, wait until they change their cars.
Right.
Right now, they don't have.
They need to have four-wheel drive. That's it.
Yeah, that's just it.
To
You need to-
get
you need
into
to
their
put-
driveway, right?
There is to it.
Live in the village.
That would be cheap.
Okay.
Not with the prices of the lift kits nowadays. No, probably not.
All right,
So
so
we've
that's
got-
that project. Do we want to make a decision on that and then move on to the behind Howden Hall? How do we want to handle that?
Wait a minute, Ian.
I'm holding.
Do we want to disclose the price now, or do we want another number?
I guess, how does the select board want to approach this? Authorize us to have an agreement with the lowest responsible bidder? If Eric can get additional numbers?
I can try. The only reason I didn't reach out to the other ones is the cement contractor that I normally reach out to, he's gonna be gone next week for a month. And then the other one that I was gonna reach, he already told me flat out that he's busy now trying to catch up to what he's got going on now. But I can ask him again to see if he's got any leeway yet.
So it sounds like this is somewhat timely and that they're.
I don't know how much of a timely, I mean, they've been scraping now for all summer. What's another summer?
How do you feel about that?
Eric, the price that you got, did you feel it was reasonable?
Compared to what we spent on Park Street, I would say yes.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Because this includes the
site work and the concrete.
Yeah.
So.
And the removal of those?
Yeah, it includes everything, start to finish.
And I don't think the number doesn't look.
Too off.
It doesn't look, well,
Don't ask me, I wouldn't know.
compared to what we spent on Park Street.
Yeah, I don't even know what we spent on.
There's $39,000 in the sidewalk reserve fund.
Well, just because it's there doesn't mean we gotta spend it all.
Okay. I mean, if Peter, if you feel it's a reasonable cost, I don't necessarily see that we need to get more bids, especially if we feel it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get them if we wanted to get this done this year.
Yeah, and I know that, not to interrupt you, but I know that he did say that the sooner he knew if he did get it, the quicker he could get the guys on it.
Okay.
So potentially could be done by the end of November.
Okay.
Well, it would have to be because it's gonna start getting hard.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why if he could get right. Oh.
How does the board feel about just a single bid?
I'm fine.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, given the information that Eric shared, it feels fine.
Okay. Do we need a motion to approve that spending?
I move we contract with Masterson Excavation for the sum of $5,800 to fix the driveway on Maple Street.
I'll second.
Do we want to give authority for him to fix the other one if that comes up without coming back to us, or do we just want to do that one at a time?
I would almost wait.
Okay.
Because like Peter said, the ground's gonna be starting to get froze hard. And then you're gonna have the extra cost of the concrete if they do it, because they're gonna have to keep it warm from cracking. So this price is probably not gonna last much more than a month anyways.
And that is 6 inches of concrete under the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
It doesn't say.
Doesn't say. I'll have to verify that with them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to verify that with them because it doesn't say.
Hang on.
We're in the middle of a vote.
Yep.
Or discussion.
No, if Eric had more discussion, that's fine.
He's looking at the next sheet.
He wants to get out of here. Okay, all those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries.
Oh. So you'll have to, I screwed up and I'll admit it. So this one here is Basin Street. top of Basin Street. This is the driveway one. Her driveway. I didn't read
Oh, they're both in the
the
same
job
place.
names.
It's another,
Yeah.
it's another $500.
$500 to do the
Okay.
driveway.
So it's
Few.
60 instead of 5,800.
All right. How do you want to do that, Val? Do you want to do how do we, I don't think I've ever done
Well,
one
we
of
should
these.
talk
Do you-
about Basin Street too, unless Eric, you were planning to pay for that out of your just operating budget.
Yeah, I was just gonna pay the Basin Street out of my own operating budget
Okay.
anyways.
Okay.
And the only reason I had the contract to give me the price is because like I said, the cement contractor is leaving at the end of the week. And he doesn't know if he's gonna be able to get to ours before he leaves. He's got 2 big jobs that he's trying to finish up this week. And then he's gone for, I think, almost a month. And if he can't get to ours, then that's why I reached out to the other contractor, and he said that he could do that one as well. Probably, he would probably pour them both at the same time.
The Maple
that
Street and the
also-
Basin Street?
Yes, and that 58 included them taking care of all the prep work. Digging it up, adding the gravel and all that.
So the 58 was for Basin Street?
Yes.
And the one for
April was
Maple
63.
is what, 63 you said?
Yes.
Correct.
So a corrective motion.
Amend the motion to
Yeah.
correct price.
Amend the motion for Maple Street from 58 to 6,300.
A second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those
And
against,
I do,
nay. Motion carries.
and I do have on my list for when I'm gone is, if they get the other couple other things done, is to have our guys go down and prep that and get that ready anyways.
The Basin Street?
Should they prep it? Should that be a priority? Because if not, it's not gonna get concreted by your guy this week if he has time, if it's not ready.
Right, so they should, yeah. Could you go in the morning?
Yeah.
And tell them to switch and go down and do that instead?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm thinking of winter plowing. Yikes.
Who's, they all going there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're gonna need, shovel, one in the excavator, one in the jumping jack, and then they gotta cut the pavement. Some of the pavement's gotta be cut along
They
the
know what
swale.
needs to be done there?
I spelled it out in the list,
Okay.
so they ought to be able to figure it out.
That'll be good. I'll go and switch their plans for tomorrow, since how they already thought they knew what they were doing.
Yep.
Okay, so we've done Maple
We got
Street
flexible
is
there.
taken care of. That was approved. So we're all set with that. Do we need to, are we talking about the Basin Street or are we talking about Howden Hall?
No.
Howden Hall, because Basin
Howden Hall.
Street, what's gonna happen is he's gonna prep it, so the worst it would be is the concrete there.
Yeah.
And he's taking
Okay.
that out of the budget.
Okay, all right, so let's move on to the Howden Hall, or that slope behind Howden Hall, and the discharge drain. What's going on with that?
Water's still running there.
We have three, Masterson, Driscoll Brothers, and 802.
Excavating.
And apples to apples.
What's the work that needs to be done for this particular project?
It needs to be rip wrapped and
Some trees pulled out.
trees pulled out, stumps pulled out, or the remaining of the stumps pulled out, and then it's got to be rip wrapped, swaled, and a couple check dams put in.
Now, have we got permission to cross?
Yes,
Okay, so we have permission to cross the bank's property to get there.
yes, and that's incorporated in with the price. If we need to fix the curbing and all that stuff, that's in all the
Okay.
prices.
So
And the
we got-
curbing and the landscaping, flowers and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Is this time sensitive? Needs to be done ASAP or?
Should be done this fall.
yeah.
Okay,
And I think that was the question. I think all these people have time to do it this fall.
More towards the winter than
Yeah,
fall. Yeah.
but before,
Yes.
before spring.
Definitely before. And that was my main thing, was the water's gonna start slowing down now once it gets colder. And my main thing was to get it done before spring, before thaw and spring runoff.
Okay.
So,
And what's the problem that's there? We're doing this because why? I don't know. Sorry.
It's all washed out where the discharge pipe is behind Howden Hall.
The same
Oh, that was
reason
it.
to
Okay,
get it
yes.
behind the roses and that.
Yep, got it.
should-
I remember. Okay, thank you.
You should take a walk down there and look when you're out, Ian. It'd be.
Okay. Yep, I'll do that. So what are we looking at in terms of do we want to?
I'm just trying to give you apples to apples here. Is this?
So this one here is comparable to this one and this one.
All right.
This one here
Is
going
all the way to
the river.
rest of the way
Yeah.
for a total of that. Okay.
No. Because it's he's got 150 feet and then 200 feet to the river. These are two separate ones.
Right, for a total of that. That's why the total's there.
I just figured it added it up automatically,
Yeah.
even though I just put them in there, but that could be.
I would say, because that's another 200 feet, and that's only 150 feet. I'm guessing that's a price
Yeah. Okay. So this one here, the 150 feet is what these.
Everybody else has bid.
Yes.
So, all right. So we have Masterson Excavating at $22,000, and these are apples to apples. Basically 3-foot rock in approximately 150 feet of wash. Per Eric's conversation with them, taking the trees out, removing the stumps, and placing the stone. $22,000 for Masterson, $26,500 for 802, and $20,300 for Driscoll Brothers. And then if there's curb damage, it's $90 a foot to fix that. What's this? If you decide.
This is if you decide to go all the way to the river, add that.
Any preference with those? Obviously, there's a lower number there.
They all are very capable. I would be inclined to go with Driscoll Brothers.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to go with Driscoll Brothers for $20,300.
One second. I mean, I've seen them up our way doing work up our way, but that's the first time I've ever seen them. I haven't.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with
They do a lot of work in Chittenden County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we
they
have a
work for us. They actually have worked, they did
did a-
ditch work for us on Meehan Road.
That's
Upper
where
Meehan
I
Road.
saw them. Yeah, was up our way.
Yeah, that came out really good.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Aye. All those against, nay. Motion
And
carries.
this will be coming out of your budget, your operating budget, Eric? Or the
You wasn't
road?
thinking that.
Capital roads?
Yes.
I was kind of, we could, like you mentioned, taking it out and then out of mine, and then if we needed to adjust, we could adjust later, which I'm fine with. If we get towards the end of the year and we need to adjust a little bit, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Or if we want to take it out of the capital road, that's fine too. It doesn't matter to me which way.
Okay.
What? I'm just trying to think what's going to be the cleanest. I mean, I hate to go back and, if he ends up in a deficit, I hate to go back and
Put money back in.
take the money from a different account to not have a deficit. I'd much rather take the money out of capital roads, and if he ends up with a surplus, then we ask for it out of undesignated funds to go back into the capital roads fund.
Yeah, okay.
I think that would be cleaner.
Yeah.
Valerie?
Yeah, I was just writing it down.
Okay.
I'm asking if you agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
I thought it up, doesn't make it right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Terrific. We are all set on that. Thank you, Eric. You are now free to go on vacation.
We'll call you with a question.
I don't care. Whatever. Won't matter to me.
Turn off your phone, or throw it somewhere, or leave it at home.
Have a good time.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Hey, Island last weekend. He's really traveled.
Yeah, this is really
The most miles on his vehicle ever.
yeah. Yeah. And up tomorrow though.
No, okay.
All right. Have a good
See
night,
ya.
guys.
Night.
Thanks, Eric. All righty, moving on. Item 2, consider the single bid submitted for the Lawrence Memorial Library front porch rehabilitation project.
Yeah, online I had posted the RFP to which we received one proposal. So the question is, does the select board want to accept the one proposal or put the project back out to bid in the spring? Or we will be receiving a report, an architectural report from a consultant studying the Lawrence Library and its physical building needs. And we'll probably have that report by the end of November. And that report might include some other recommendations.
I hate to have him paint it and then find out we have to do other stuff to it.
Right.
Right. So I'm, as the liaison to the library, I've been working with Coco and Valerie on this. My recommendation would be to wait and put it out to bid again when we have more information about what else needs to be done. We already know that potentially we might need to adjust and tweak the RFP to actually take off the steps and do a full strip and paint the entire wooden boards instead of just the top surface. That was recommended by one of the visits to the library. So that might be an adjustment. And we've also, in the bid that we received, there was concern about just time of year in terms of paint drying and having issues with that. I actually just happened to run into somebody at the dentist who he was a painter. He had painted the library, I think he said 10 years ago, and he said the exact same thing. He said it's a spring project. He wouldn't recommend doing anything at this time. And that was a couple weeks ago. So my recommendation would just be to see how much more detail we can get for that particular area or the rest of the building, and then adjust an RFP for next year to hopefully get more bids.
I agree.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
so not to harm the competitiveness of the person that bid the project and put the effort in, I recommend that it not be disclosed publicly.
Yep, I think that's fine.
No need to if we're not moving
Right.
forward with the project.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would know that, Valerie, I think we should let them know.
That we're gonna put it back out in the
Yeah,
spring.
why we're holding off and that we're gonna put it back out next spring because there may be more to it.
Okay, yep, perfect.
That way they don't,
All right,
that way they don't think they did something wrong and we're holding off just because
We didn't like their bid.
we didn't like their bid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Moving on. Item 3, preliminary review of the FY 2021 audit.
I have to say, reading these things just makes me feel really dumb.
Oh my God. Yes.
I mean, I didn't read the whole report, but usually I just read the letter because it really tells you what the highlights
Right.
are. It's like I'm reading on it. What does that mean? I really don't know what that means.
I felt the same way. I'm over my head.
That's why we have Anthony to
Exactly.
decode what was put into the report. I mean, yeah, you can get a general idea, but it's a very complex document, and I applaud anyone who has broad
The
understanding.
one thing
of it.
we weren't going through our bank statements soon enough. I did get that.
Oh, it's unusual circumstances.
Recommendation.
Well, right, and
Yeah.
I was like, there has to be a reason because we are not usually that slow about getting that stuff done.
Well, not
I don't know
having
if
somebody
Anthony-
to do it was a complication.
Right. I don't know if Anthony wants to speak to the audit if he's still, I see him on, but maybe he's off somewhere.
No, he's here.
He's here, but
I'm
I don't
still
know if
here.
you want to, I don't know if you
still
want to
here.
speak to the audit. Obviously this was your first for the town.
Yes, and the
And
first,
your thoughts on what was received.
well, it took a significant amount of time. Mainly, yeah, I was new. They were also new for us. They wanted a lot of background. A lot of the things they emphasized was different than our prior auditor. So they focused a lot on getting our fixed assets like up to their caliber. What ended up happening was the auditors in their mathematical calculations do not take salvage cost into consideration when you're doing fixed assets. Salvage cost is what, you know how we just sold the 2001 truck? Well, that for that amount, that is what's considered the salvage cost of that asset. However, these particular auditors take the full value we bought something for, take the shelf life of that item, and then divide X amount of years by X amount of dollars. And every single year is a straight depreciation of that amount. Normally, in most instances, you take that salvage cost off the total price and then you divide it. So there was a lot of that going on. That was about 2.5 months of going back and forth, just that alone. So I will say one thing, having provided all that background information, they have our bonds, they have our grants, they're very aware of how we operate. It's significantly easier this year to get that all under control. As for some of the key points, another reason why this took significantly longer is both Valerie and myself had been talking. We had been in communication with the auditors about the concept of the landfill liability and what necessarily that meant. We had to do some pretty extensive research. According to Valerie, it was the state law says that we hit the threshold for, like, after the benchmark of not needing to file a certain report.
Yeah, but the law was changed after Bristol's landfill was closed, and so it didn't apply to us.
Yep. And the auditors were going off of a federal guidelines and GASP, which is a whole other
And I responded to that too, showing that we met the criteria. So I think we haven't heard from them since.
No.
I think I didn't mean to pull the rug out of what they were trying to do, but I think one thing that they could include in their management letter is that we hadn't been budgeting enough over the years for landfill maintenance. For years, it was $4,000 when the actual expenses were in the area of $7,000 or $8,000. The analysis, the financial analysis that the auditors were calling for, and that we actually did, was more in the range of over $9,000 needed to be budgeted. I think we found that actual expenses didn't go that high, but we were still under budgeting. So one question I have is, is the select board interested in continuing this conversation and invite a representative of the auditor's firm to meet with us and kind of walk us through or answer questions about anything?
I mean, my only thing with that is, first of all, it had to be at layman's terms so that I can understand it. And I don't want them going through the whole thing, just like, these are the highlights. These are the things that are for you to know what you need to improve on.
Exactly.
Or what we're doing wrong.
We don't need a line by line.
So how bad is the management letter? I mean,
It wasn't.
No,
I mean,
it
it wasn't
wasn't
bad.
bad.
It's just like, when you're looking at stuff, it's like, I don't understand some of this
I
stuff.
mean, in the past, we've gotten letters that have been,
Pretty blasting.
yeah, pretty blasting, and
This
it's
was
like,
not
yeah,
that.
we
No.
just,
There were just, I think there were like 2 items on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
were.
I just had it pulled up a second ago.
What was that, Anthony?
Yeah, there were only 2 items. One of the items was the liability issue
Right.
with the landfill, and the other one was the reconciliations and having them done monthly within 30 days. Now, they had to put that letter in, even though they were 100% understanding in the fact that I had just come on, Jen hadn't been there for a bit, and Peter was doing a significant amount of work in the treasurer's office when he normally just would do end of month sort of housekeeping and whatnot, and then the reconciliations. So they were like, we have to put this in even though we understand. So, I mean, we came out
so
of
is
it.
there really any need for us to go any further than that if you can rectify what they asked for?
Well, do you have any interest in exploring the budget tables that they prepared?
I didn't even look at those.
I didn't get that far either.
And
Overwhelmed by what I
understanding what our fund balance, our undesignated fund balance is. I actually had trouble finding it.
I would say, I mean, I'd have to go through the rest of it, because like I said, I didn't get through all of it. So I wouldn't schedule anything with them for right now. We can talk about it again later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
fair.
concerned, Valerie?
No, I have not had a chance to go through it very closely. The areas that I did go through, I found some typo kind of things, but yeah, I haven't completely found the undesignated fund balance. I think I did in the earlier draft, but I'm not finding it in this one.
Yeah, I had it highlighted.
That's
in
going to
the
be
draft.
important.
Anthony, do you know where it is in the final document?
I need to look again just to make sure, because when that Mike, who was the accountant who handled a lot of our financial statements in this audit, reformatted a couple things. One of the issues, well, not really issues, but one of the things that they do is they split your financial statement into 2 languages. One speaks corporate and the other one's public. So they need to compare you on how you'd handle life as a corporation and a private business. I've never fully understood the reason why, but it's just one of the accounting things that need to happen. So I'll look at my notes again. I don't have them in front of me. And if I can find it again, I'll just send an email to Valerie and you guys and let you know this is the number we have. This is what it is.
Yeah, let's make sure it's in the document, because that's something that we're often needing to know, and that seems to be the last thing we know about.
Right, and also the enterprise fund balances, water, sewer, police. What are their undesignated fund balances?
Right, because if you search undesignated, it doesn't come up in the document.
No.
So I don't know if it's called something else.
Right.
I have to check my notes again. They don't use undesignated fund. They use another term. It's in my draft copy.
Okay.
I'll have to check
Well,
it.
let's find that, and we'll circle back again in the next meeting and just discuss that a little bit. Or as you said, you could just do it via email.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
All righty. Moving on, item 4, review 2023 PACIF values for Bristol properties.
Yeah, VLCT passive. That's our insurance coverage, right?
Thank you. All right, so you had a bunch of questions for us, Val.
Right.
What you found in this.
Yeah, hopefully folks had a chance to look at the spreadsheet that I prepared and looked at some of the questions that I had on page 3 of my town admin report.
Yep.
As I was going through the table, I knew that I didn't want to unilaterally make changes and decisions that affected these things, because that would mean that we would either pay more or pay less for our insurance coverage. So I thought it would be useful to get the select board's input on some of this stuff. It is a little bit overdue. It was, the original due date was October 9th, but they gave me an extension to this week because they knew that I was going to bring it before the select board and that everything else is ready.
Okay. Do you want to hit your list that you've got here? Go through it.
Yeah. So the contents of the fire station, and I don't know why they don't list the buildings in chronological order. I have no idea why. And when I tried to do it in the spreadsheet, I messed everything up. So I didn't get that far. So going in the order that they have it, the contents of the fire station, which is building 31, is valued at only about $74,000.
There's a whole lot more in there than that.
I know. And understanding that if we increase the value, it's increasing our insurance premium. But we don't want to pay more than we need to, and we don't want to under-insure our properties either. And the codes guaranteed replacement cost is what that is, as opposed to agreed value, the AV. So, and we can change those things. We can go from GRC to AV if that's what we want.
Is the equipment from the firehouse, is that insured in somewhere else? Do we know?
This is
Would
it.
that be insured separately?
No, this is it. Well, I guess there are vehicles. Yes.
Registered vehicles are insured separate from, or at least that's the way private insurance works. If you have a registered vehicle in your garage and your garage burns, they don't cover the vehicle. That's covered under your motor vehicle cost.
Right. I was thinking about gear and stuff like that, though.
Yeah, well, that's you just start saying that, and there's you figure an air pack and there's $10,000 worth of gear that goes on every firefighter. So you got
and then you've got the air pack changing state or the refill station, and I mean there's just so much
all
stuff
the
in there.
miscellaneous tools.
Well, right. I mean the memorabilia, the the computers, the tape. I mean all that stuff is covered. Anything in the lockers,
right? That would all be covered under. I mean, I'm thinking. I only know about residential, but under residential policy, it's everything in your building,
right?
So unless the equipment is covered somewhere else. I think.
Do we know where that $73,486 came from originally?
No, and as you can see, it's the same over the 3 years that I looked at.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's have. I would recommend speaking with the fire chief about that and seeing if he can get us a number of what the contents of the building. I mean, he's going to be the one or the most knowledgeable about that. So that seems like it makes sense.
I know like the guaranteed replacement cost that they have a calculation that they figure that number on, because even on your residential, they tell you to do it every year. So they do that all by percentages and calculations. Based on
there's a separate vehicle listing that just lists all the vehicles and their insurance, like what year and what type of vehicle, which department it's located, the identification number, but it doesn't list a value. So this appears to be the only place that lists a value for any of that stuff.
All right. Well, let's talk to the chief about that one. What was your second one?
Well, I think we need we kind of need clarification on how they come up with their numbers and what they mean.
Well, what's interesting is I know, again, in residential, many moons ago, I worked in insurance. So in residential policies, it's usually a percentage of whatever your homeowner's value is. But if this hasn't changed, they do something different then.
Yeah, that number's not right. Something's gonna change.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I'll reach out to Brett tomorrow.
Thank you.
Let's see, the dog kennel building, which is building number 30. I thought we had that removed, but apparently not, and it's now valued at $33,000. Should we remove it?
Should that even be on there?
It shouldn't even be on there. I mean,
that's what I thought.
I don't know that it's been tore down yet, but
No, but what is it, what did he put in there?
nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, I
don't
thought he
think.
had something in there, nothing major, but I thought he was using it for.
It's not big enough for Eric to put anything in there.
So that should be taken out.
And
Remove that.
Bruce, you can't use it, right? Because it's not up to standard.
No, it's up to standard.
Okay. All right, that's gone. Storage shed, building number 1.
Well, let's see. Yeah. The contents of they call it storage shed, building number 1, just was left off the list in 2023.
Is that the old salt shed, or is that the one where they used to have the baler for the recyclable, for the cardboard? I mean, there's two
honestly,
sheds there.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, because
they have the 2 different garages.
Yeah.
No, but what, is that the one where they put the hazardous, the oils in that when they?
No, that's a different building. That's another.
Well, previous values of it, 2022 is $24,320.
Right. So we would increase that by 11.8% to match their projections. And I asked Vicki where the 11.8% came from, and inflation and some of the professional appraiser people that they consult with. That was their recommendation.
Those buildings aren't. I mean, that old salt shed is not.
I know.
and the other one is just.
It's not much.
It's not much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
can we, with that one, can we confirm?
We have to really clarify what storage shed they're talking about.
Yeah. So we need to find out what building number 1 is.
Okay, I need to clarify what that building is.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a map or something that has that information? Or do they just assign arbitrary numbers?
There should be three buildings that are worth more money over there, and then.
No, they got the town garage, the village garage, the storage shed, and the salt shed.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Which one's the village garage and which?
The village garage is the one that they operate out of. The gray one. The green one is the town garage.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are 5 buildings. So dog kennel, we can remove that. And then we have a salt shed, storage shed, town garage, and village garage. So I guess that we can narrow down if there are only 5 buildings over there, which one is called the storage shed.
So
Yeah, and is it worth?
My policy has inland marine, which is my equipment. I don't know why they call it inland marine, but like the salt shed, we store a tractor down there. We store all our signage and everything down there. And if we don't have other insurance on that John Deere tractor and whatever other equipment we store
in there, they need to put in a contents.
Unless it's covered somewhere else.
Right.
I didn't see where it was.
I mean, I don't know just what he stores in there, but I'm pretty sure that the tractor and the broom and all that stuff is stored in that building.
So unless there's equipment somewhere, again.
And there again, one of those sheds, at one point they were storing the tractor in there, but I think it's down in that lean-to off of the salt shed now.
And also the straw baler. And
yeah.
Okay.
I just don't. I guess I don't know enough about how they're covering us and how they cover that other stuff. Is it just contents of the building, or is it something that's covered somewhere else?
Yeah.
Right, are we talking desks and chairs, or are we talking
tractors and yeah.
That's a different story.
Because you've got the culvert thawer and the sidewalk plow and
right.
and all of that stuff that's stored in the village garage. And then in the other one, you've got the grader. If the grader's not insured separately, you know, that's a $300,000 piece of equipment that's stored in the town garage. It's worth more than the garage.
We've got $2,000 for content in the green garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there again, I agree with you, Valerie. We don't want to go and put these numbers that aren't realistic, but the loader and the grader in there, that's you know, that's $500,000 worth of equipment. And if we lose that shed, it's not covered. Like the trucks are insured separate because they're registered.
Yeah.
You know, those two pieces of equipment are that's $500,000.
We don't have a rider on this for equipment. Like, I mean, my residential will have a rider for
your ATVs
glorified,
or whatever.
Glorified lawnmower.
That is a very good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because I would think that's what they would do, is they'd have a rider for the equipment.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, mine is inland marine and everything is listed separately. And I go through every year and put a value to that equipment.
And my guess is
adjusted.
if they don't have that, then they should be having that, and they would probably want a list of all the equipment that's kept wherever.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. There must be a list somewhere, because at some point they had to have values for all those things. So I'm guessing there's a policy or an amendment or attachment is what they'll call it. Yeah.
And this stuff should be updated. I mean, you're leaving all the contents the same from year to year. Well, the cost to replace all that stuff goes up.
I mean, if that's just tools and incidentals, it's probably not terrible. But if it's, you know, I'd hate like hell to lose a garage and find out that
the grader's not covered.
You know, the grader and the loader.
Right.
Did you have a comment, Sharon?
There is some language in the policy that talks about buildings, contents, and portable equipment. I don't see anything listed, but it also talks about their agreements attached to the property coverage. Talks about automobiles, firefighting trucks, watercraft, mobile equipment. So there might be, it's probably buried in the policy.
Be worth a phone call.
Yeah. To have them tell us exactly where to look.
I don't know how we adjust it without knowing.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and we could probably talk about this for another 2 hours. And going to the police station, $50 for the rented building, that's understandable. $50,000 for the contents. Again, is that just the portable stuff, computers? Because the vehicles are stored there.
Right.
But they have their own insurance.
Because you have to
vehicles anything that's registered is insured.
There'd be a vehicle policy
somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe they have their own policies.
Because that's like at a homeowner's policy, that's completely separate. You have home and auto.
Yeah, anything you can register, like if your car's in your garage and your house burns and your garage burns, your homeowner's insurance does not cover your car.
Right.
If it's something that can be registered, and if you have a car in there that's not registered and you don't have it insured, it's still not covered.
Your SOL.
Well, those are definitely questions for VLCT to help answer.
We're not being much help, are we?
Well, you are by asking really good questions.
No, we're just creating more work for you.
I talked about this briefly with Meredith, and she commented that I think the grandstand has a kitchen.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
A functioning
But that's
kitchen.
not we get reimbursed for that. That's all.
Yeah,
right,
there should be a value to something like that.
Right, there should be a value to the kitchen equipment.
Yeah, you'll have to reach out to, what's his name?
Troy.
Yeah.
To find out.
At one point, they used to take stuff out in the winter, but I don't know what.
No, they don't do that
They don't do it anymore.
Everything stays in there, or it used to when we were doing.
So what's the relationship with the grandstand, since it's not ours?
We pay the,
We insure it.
We insure it and they reimburse us. It goes under
Oh,
our
okay.
policy.
Okay.
They
Part
pay
of
the
the
premium.
agreement between the town and the rec club.
Does the grandstand include the newer building, the score building?
no,
I guess that would be a good question for them.
That was, I mean, if this hasn't been updated in a while, that's fairly recent, within the last few years, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe 3 or 4 years. So we want to add that on.
Picnic Pavilion, there's one more, there's another one down there, Valerie. Can you scroll down a little bit? There was something else at 80 Airport. Rec
Snack
field,
bar.
rest-
Snack bar.
Restrooms,
What's a snack bar?
the snack bar is
The
the,
hub, isn't it?
Is that the thing that's in
tea center
the,
there?
Oh, that's obviously, yep. So snack bar is probably the
The snack bar
kitchen?
is part of
Is
the
that-
kitchen.
is that
Yeah.
what they're talking? Yeah.
is that part of the grandstand?
yeah,
And so are the restrooms.
Yes.
So they
Okay,
must have that separately,
yeah.
okay.
but they still don't have a value for contents.
But that might, maybe that is the, maybe that
That is
is
the
the
content.
value.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm, the restrooms are more valuable than the kitchen stuff.
Right.
And if this hasn't been updated, because they put in some new stuff in there.
Yeah.
But how can the contents, what kind of contents do you have in a restroom that's worth more than the restroom? Or, you know,
The
Is it just a
toilet
bag
roll
of-
and
bag of
the
money?
paper towel holder.
Yeah.
Right.
on the toilet.
Is
Is
toilet
it a
paper
gold
holder.
toilet in there or something? Yeah, I guess for me, I would recommend, similar to reaching out to the chief, for the fire department, I would reach out to the rec club for potential updates to their content, value contents, and also the addition of that additional building. And I don't know, does that the newest building, does that have a name? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think, but we need, you know,
Yes, we need our
Brad-
questions
Brad
answered
goes-
before we reach out to.
of all the equipment that's in the fire station,
Yeah.
we need to know what's covered where.
Right, exactly.
I mean, before you ask him for a value, I think, before you ask anybody for a value, I think we need to know what's covered where, because
Yeah.
Yep,
It's covered somewhere else.
good questions.
What that number is.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was
But,
surprised
yeah,
to see that the value of the teen center, with all this talk about it being in disrepair. But Meredith thought that was that they've made enough improvements and whatnot, that's not a bad value. Although they've also increased their contents with computers and other electronics and musical instruments, and now they just bought a washer and dryer. And the kitchen.
Yeah, that's gonna be higher.
Yeah.
Two wouldn't cover the stuff that's in there.
Right.
No.
but is it,
Okay.
yeah, I don't,
Yeah, but
is that something specific?
Is that
You know, 'cause
$2,000 to something?
Like Darla was saying, a lot of times it's based on a percentage of what the contents are based on a percentage of what the value of the building is.
well, then you have a question, because we lease this from them, do you need to have a separate policy for the town?
For the content.
For the contents, you know, like a renter's policy.
Like a-
I mean, I understand that they have their stuff insured through us, but
Yeah, maybe that's the club's
I,
whatever that's there.
Yeah, cause if that place burns, the club's gonna get 341,000,
yeah, and we're gonna get nothing.
and yeah,
The town gets nothing. So, I mean, it's just kind of like we have the kiln set put in there separately. Kiln shed.
The kiln shed.
Yeah.
Well, we built that. That was built about the time I came on.
right, but then it looks like the contents are pretty close, the kiln is in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all our products.
But
and supplies
it
and
burns stuff anyway.
The kiln's not going to burn. The kiln will be the last.
It
thing
might
to
cause
burn.
the fire.
It might-
So I think we really need to get VLC to answer those questions, like what does it cover? What about
Yeah, what are we talking about?
contents? What about vehicles? What about equipment? You know,
Yeah.
how is that? How do
How
they
is that?
handle that?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, do we need to list, you know, do we need to list everything? Because like the green building over to the town shed, they have a ton of parts. Their parts room is in one corner of that building, and they have, you know, they have hose fittings, they have hose, they have specialized tools that, you know, that they've acquired over the years, and there's thousands of dollars worth of tools in that one corner. The welders, you know, the welders, the torches, the plasma cutter.
Right.
You know, there's $10,000 worth of tools right there.
Well, the intake house for the water, it says zero contents. Is there pumps in there and stuff like that that should be covered under that?
Right.
The contents?
Where are we?
Where it says, intake house in Lincoln?
Oh, intake house in Lincoln is, I don't know, that we.
Are there pumps in there?
This was deleted.
No, there's nothing in
There's
there.
nothing in there?
I don't know as we even need that insured.
Yeah, that's been deleted. That was deleted last year.
Okay.
This is the pump house.
Oh, that was on Briggs Hill. There's one in, yeah, okay, they were both deleted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the pump house, yeah, that building is not a $750,000 building.
No, it's cinder block, but it's the contents that's inside.
It's not $750,000, but if you had to replace it, would it cost you $750,000?
Well, with today's regulations, probably.
But that's the value, that's the guaranteed replacement cost. Yeah.
Oh, well,
So
does it
what-
include the equipment inside?
Right, no, but I'm just saying that value on there is what they're saying is the guaranteed replacement value.
So if you had to rebuild it today.
Yeah,
Right.
well, we just rebuilt a pump that cost us way more than $5,000.
Right.
So we need to know whether the contents, yeah,
It feels like there's gotta be
something's missing.
attachments somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And if
So,
that $5,000 is for the tools that are in there and the spare parts, then it's probably accurate. But if that $5,000 has to cover the 3 pumps that are in there and the electrical controls,
I would just put in.
it's
Yeah.
not, well, it's not happening.
so does the select board, in order to keep this moving and stay within our application window, does somebody want to designate or volunteer from the select board to work with me on this and make the adjustments after, or even being with me when I make the call to VLCT and we so I'll use speakerphone or something and talk about all this and have a select board member kind of oversee changes, the resulting changes, rather than wait 2 weeks and come back with this. Actually, 2 weeks will be November 7th, or next week is November 7th. I'm lost.
No, next week
Yeah.
is not November 7th.
Yeah.
No.
The following week is.
Second.
Right. So 2 weeks. Yeah. Because it's 3 weeks between now and the next one. So, and I don't think they'd be very happy if we waited that long.
I'd
Depending
say
on when you make the call, I
Peaker
think-
is the most qualified.
I am.
You are not gonna get him on the phone with Val.
I am not.
I'm envisioning someone sitting in the office with me in a chair, and we have VLCT on speakerphone.
Well, when it comes to finding the value of equipment, Peter's
Yeah,
vastly more
I would
qualified.
love to be involved, but I am
I don't
straight
think-
out this week, and then I'm gone for 2 weeks. So
Well, I think the
doesn't-
first conversation with VLCT has to be, we need to understand what this covers, what it doesn't cover, what we're missing.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
Yeah. And I'm happy to be part of that conversation.
Yeah. Because then once we understand that, then some of this could go like to Meredith or to Brett.
Brett,
or-
yeah.
I see.
Because they're probably gonna need to schedule, like we're, of what we're looking to insure too.
Yeah.
Exists
And
somewhere.
I don't know if we can get another extension given these circumstances. If we can get that pushed a little bit farther.
I wonder if it
Well,
can
because
be.
it's become a lot more complicated.
Right.
Right. Well, I wonder if it can be renewed as it is, and then we could make
An
adjustments to it.
amendment. Do an amendment.
No, that's another good question.
I mean, because I can call my homeowner's insurance at any time and say, I need to change it, need to change the value of this, or I've added
Yeah,
this, or
that's
whatever.
true.
If you're increasing values, they're gonna take your call.
That's right.
They'll be happy.
Right.
They'll be happy to take our money.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I can see, if this stuff isn't, we're talking
Millions of
a couple
dollars.
$1 million if it's not covered
Right.
somewhere else in the policy.
I'm thinking it is.
Right, right. And if it's not, then we're looking at some serious increases in the bottom lines.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the question of to what degree, what level of risk are we actually looking at? So I don't know if that needs to be factored in. What's the real likelihood that Holly Hall is going to blow up? Or any of the buildings to be completely.
Well, it's all,
replaced.
That's the whole reason you have insurance.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You
Right.
don't
What's the
you don't want to take that risk.
Right, and what's the reality of us being able to rebuild it if we don't have it insured to value? That's the.
Yeah, if this building here wasn't insured to value, I mean, we put almost $1 million into renovation in just the downstairs.
Mhm.
Wow. Huh.
So I don't know, what's this building valued at?
How no. 2 million something.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. 2,013,000.
And then the contents of this building are much, much higher than the,
Yeah, that might actually be accurate.
yeah, well, that's what makes me,
Yeah, 125,000, I'm not even sure that's accurate. It's hard to
If
say.
it's contents, I mean, with computers and kitchenette and chairs and desks and.
Right. Right.
You know, if the vault is closed, that stuff's fireproof. If the vault is open,
Ooh, I don't even want to think
feels
about
like it
that.
might be different. That feels like it might be a different policy too, but I
Yeah.
wonder.
so anyway. I guess
Okay.
that was you and Darla.
Okay. I will do that.
I'm more than willing to help out with the equipment and that, but
Numbers.
my time for the next 3 weeks is,
Limited.
well, for this week is very valuable, and the next 2 weeks after that, I'm gone, so.
All right.
Okay.
All righty.
The department heads should be able to help.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Once we understand it, then
Mhm.
we can pull other people in.
All right, should we move on?
Yes.
All right, item 5, consider development of a Bristol River management plan that may include extraction of gravel from the New Haven River.
Okay, so I'll jump in on this and then Peter can correct me if what I understood today was wrong. So we met with Joran and Kyle from the state. Joran is and now I can't remember.
He's the.
It's in my notes.
River, whatever, the state. So we went down and looked at the river on the North Bridge, and we're looking at the section where it cut off, where all the gravel from above has settled and kind of rerouted the overflow. Basically, they kind of told us they think that we aren't going to be pulling that rock out of there.
And if we do,
Explanation.
and if we do pull it out, being that it's got Japanese knotweed in it, it has to go somewhere where Japanese knotweed is already a problem and it can't be reused.
Because they don't have a way to get rid of it.
It's so
There's no way to
invasive.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
Even if we were to crush it and use it on our roads, then we're
we're
introducing it.
spreading it. So
All right,
then
moving on then.
we had a discussion also about, because the river has had an original overflow and the rocks and debris and sediment have come down and blocked that off. They told us we could take that out, and that wouldn't be too big of a project. It would be a conditional use. Kyle would give us a conditional use, but we would have to come up with a plan to provide to them. But I didn't
It'd be
understand this.
engineered. We'd
Yeah.
have to hire an engineer. We'd have to hire a consultant to give us
Yeah, he said to sit down with a consultant to come up with a plan. But I didn't understand part of that, because there's knotweed all in that too.
Yeah. Well,
I was
it
like-
would have to go somewhere
Okay.
where, yeah.
So anyway, Peker had said something about putting some of the big rocks just on the bank there to kind of hold that in.
And
too.
they said there was nothing big enough in there.
There's nothing big enough to hold them on.
Because we talked about we couldn't use the knotweed was all in it. Could we take that gravel and put against the bank it would be it'd be the east bank of the river on the north end. And they said none of it was big enough, which I'm
not sure that's right. But
personally having a little bit of trouble understanding if you move that gravel out of the floodplain and put it against the bank, it should give that water a place to go so that it's not. But
if we had an engineer to say that it would work, then they probably would accept that. But ultimately, I'm going to send them the stuff that Kristen sent me about the sediment deposits and that she did in like 2012, 2013. If we really want a river management, we could ask Amy Sheldon to come in, but Kaya was going to look to see what grants were available to maybe help us pay for like the engineer and help with some of that stuff. So we told them we'd meet and talk and let them know.
Right now, nobody's pushing us that they're losing property, but I mean, and there again, it's so far out of the right of way. It's, is it even our responsibility to deal with it?
Is it the state's responsibility to do it?
Yeah, well, that's it. He did comment that if it's encroaching on somebody's building or on somebody's septic, that it was a concern.
And that's eligible for
That was a state
natural
Yeah.
resources, the emergency watershed program, I think. The same group that's paying for the West Street slope repair.
Right.
So I don't know.
I mean, when Peter and I were talking with him, we said it might be nice to be able to reflow the overflow to where it originally was, which may take some of the pressure off of that side tributary that it created, but at what cost? Because we can't take the rock out of there and use it.
Well, you can take it out, but you
just
can't use
it.
The one thing we would be able to do with it is if we had, I don't know, well, there would have to be knotweed in our pit already, and I don't know if there is, but we could use it to reclaim down there to fill, and it would have to stay there.
Right.
So that's always, but
It feels like a lot of work for not a lot of product.
I mean, if you like Middlebury's river management plan, they have like a 10-year plan. So every 10 years they can take stuff out and dig out like the sediment that's come down, but they probably don't have the knotweed to lower their flood table.
So I think if we could take it out of the stream bed, the knotweed wouldn't be an issue.
Right.
The knotweed's only an issue on the stream banks. So where we have sediment deposited in the stream bed,
which is probably down by down by the new bridge there, where it's all, where you come there and all you see is all that gravel where it's, so that could be something too. But again, you have to have that river management plan that would allow us to get a permit. I mean, Middlebury still has to apply for the permit, but because they have the plan, they get the permit issued without too much.
I mean, is that something that we want the Conservation Commission to work on? Is it useful, or is it just more work than the reward?
I don't know. I told Kristen I'd keep her in the loop, but we can ask that question of her. I mean, she's been through some of this. She's worked with Amy, so she's the right one to ask.
I don't know what the benefit is to us.
Yeah.
At this point, granted, we don't want people to lose their property, but by the same token, we don't have the money to spend.
Right.
If we can't recoup, my thought was, if we go in there and there's a couple thousand yards of gravel, that's a quarter of what we use a year, and it would extend the life of our pit.
Mm-hmm.
But with the knotweed in there, it's basically garbage.
Gang, not weed.
Yeah.
As they said, it's almost, he said it was like a 5-year process to kill it. And
Come on, you came up with a different process.
Yeah, I did, but
Yes.
he's certainly not gonna, he certainly was not.
Did it involve gasoline and a
Yeah, you were pretty close.
little napalm?
It's something you're not gonna use near the river, I can tell you
I'm
that.
sorry, he said Roundup, so.
Yeah, and I can't believe they're gonna let you use
Roundup on the river,
in
right?
right in the river, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't
you
want that.
cut it and Roundup it, and it was like a 5-year process. Cut it,
Roundup,
cut it just
again,
before it plowed, Roundup it,
and cut it
and
again
then cut it
before.
again in the fall, and it was like 5 years to get rid of it. And if you miss one little chunk, it's all back.
It's kind of like poison parsnip. Except
Yeah.
poison parsnip, you can dig up and throw it in the road and it'll
Let people run
die.
over it.
Yeah, it'll die.
Or the buckthorn.
Okay.
That's another
Well,
one.
thank you very much for looking into that. I'm sorry to hear that it
I
wasn't as fruitful
it's-
as we hoped.
Not completely dead, but it's not as hopeful as what we were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I can reach out
Okay.
to Kristen. Ask her what her thoughts are.
Yeah.
See what she
Okay.
says.
Yeah, do that. All righty. All right, let's move on. Item 6, American Rescue Plan Act, a funding update.
You're muted.
I was like, did Val disappear?
I was like, was I muted? Did I just say something?
The committee met recently, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the exercises was for them. Well, first of all, one of the exercises was for me to identify other potential funding sources for various items that were listed, and I did that. And then the committee members kind of voted or ranked their top 10, their personal top 10 favorites of all the projects listed, so that just to see how things fell out or how things looked after that. Ian, were you part of that discussion, and do you recall what the next step was intended to be?
Yeah, so the committee members each gave their lists, and Porter tallied that together, sent out a document that sort of had those, the ones that got more votes than others. And so that starts to build their suggestions that they might make to us. The next stage was, after identifying those, was to sort of perhaps take a step back and see, because a lot of them were sort of tangible projects that you can actually build, versus things that are more nebulous in terms of the things that came up most were childcare and housing. And so they're now looking, and they wanted to look at another area to sort of see, are there other potential things that can be done in the area of housing or childcare that aren't part of the list that people picked, or the top 10 that people picked. And some of them were, reading off the list here, the suggestions in terms of all the projects, the 500 suggestions that came in, people picked their 10. And so things like air conditioning for Holly Hall was very popular with the committee members, an elevator in the Masons building, improving childcare at either Bristol Family Center or one at Wren's Nest. So the childcare one is kind of answered there. Housing is the biggest issue because it's so complicated and so expensive. A lot of people, there are no like tangible things on the list. It's just sort of like housing, affordable housing for elderly, so that's what they need to revisit. But so there was childcare in that respect, bus shelters, electric charging stations, skate park improvements, message board at the fire station. So some of these are large projects, some of these are small. Library outdoor classroom was very popular. Public restrooms was also very popular, and things like dog park, rescue squad updates as well. So a good list. I mean, and it was nice to see sort of things that I had picked were on that list, which was was good to see in terms of things that I've suggested, but also ones that I'd liked. And there are also too, I think there was a very good the choices that a lot of the members made were similar, which was great. And so it's sort of narrowing down. So I think the next stage would be you would take this list and you could shape it up a little bit more and present it to the public and see how the public reacts. And then it might be presented to us at some point.
Thank you. Yep.
Was that
So
about
the
it?
next, I think the next meeting is November 7th.
Yeah.
That's a Monday. That's the select board meeting. So that starts at 5:30.
Correct.
So for an hour.
Yeah, and a lot of those, are definitely things, as I said, are tangible things that could be built and could help different organizations. They seem to cover a broad spectrum of helping as many people as possible, which is the task and sort of mission of the committee from the beginning, was to see how can you help as many people in Bristol, how many Bristol residents as you could. And it's hard to do it with one project, but this seems to help a lot of people in a very broad spectrum in the town in different areas. So that was good to see sort of such a healthy list. I saw on Front Porch Forum, or at least Lincoln's Front Porch Forum, they have a list of form out to the public, and they have dollar amounts attached to some of the projects that they're looking to fund and looking for feedback on. And I don't know, that might be something that we could suggest to the ARPA committee going forward. We have another few months, I think, of the committee sort of working on their findings, but I don't know if we wanted to suggest that in terms of presenting to us. Is that more helpful, or at least even presenting to the public to be able to see a dollar amount? Because a lot of these, I can sort of put together a figure in my head, but it would be good to have numbers sort of attached to something. And looking at that list, I felt for most of it, we're not even getting anywhere close our awarded amount, which is nice because that means we have more money to use. But I think we just have to sort of spend a little bit more time on these choices and see how they shake out.
So in this list, Ian, just curiosity, is there any of the town's projects in there, or that's not part of it? Like, we were talking about.
No, it's right. I mean, we didn't suggest a tremendous amount of projects. One of the main focus was a community center. That one didn't get as many. I mean, there's definitely parts of that in terms of working towards the needs of the community in different areas, but there was nothing that was, at least in terms of the committee members, and just their top tens. And it was a very, broad, relaxed kind of discussion about it and looking at the list. But that one didn't come up, I think, mainly because it's not so much a tangible thing. It's a very complicated thing to even begin to sort of look at and start to do. But I think the needs that a community center would serve, I think that came across in some of the other suggestions that people had and that people picked.
Okay.
Yeah, well, $1 million isn't gonna go far. If you put it into a community center, it would take it out.
No. Yeah. And some of those, looking at that 10, Val and I sort of looked around for grants that could help with those suggestions, those top 10 or top 20. And we did find some. The issue that we might run into down the line is that our timing is such a short amount of time in terms of when we need to have money spent by. If you add a grant into that, it might get a little bit more complicated and might work against us depending on what the grant is. So, we have them there because we're trying to leverage as much money as we can with these projects, but it does add another layer of complication to a particular project if you're trying to seek grant money as well. And also timing is a big thing in terms of if a grant only comes around once a year, say, and we need to have something built and completed in a certain amount of time, we might run into issues by trying to go after grants.
Do we have to, though, seeing how we put we took the money and put it all in our coffers? Basically, the money's been spent.
Correct. No, we don't. It was again trying to leverage the 1.1 million that we got to try to see was this suggestion of let's say it's air conditioning at Holly Hall for that building. is there other money available that we could definitely go after and hopefully get that could cover that particular thing, and then you could knock that one off the list. Like actually a good example is that I've been working on is the EV charging stations. We've gone after that before on 2 different occasions through the state, the ACCD, and we didn't for both of our applications. We weren't successful. Talking to Green Mountain Power, it seems like there's going to be another pool of money, much larger than it was for the last 2 occasions, that's coming down the line, hopefully in January. And their recommendation, speaking of Green Mountain Power, is to sort of apply for that. And so something like that, which was very high on the list, at least with the committee members, I think that's something where it might just be a match that we would need, that we could use ARPA funds for. And if it's a 10% match, it's a very small amount of money compared to the whole project, but we could be successful with the grant. And so that's something where you could use just a small piece of the ARPA funds and be able to use the rest of that for something else.
So the money, I guess my point was that the money had to be spent by 2025, but by putting it in our coffers, I want it done in a timely manner, but if it didn't happen until 2026, it's not the end of the world. If we had
no, we have it. No, it has to be spent.
It has to be expended.
As far as I know, that's the whole. Even though we've put it in, and Val can confirm this. We put it in a system where it sort of belongs to the town versus. I can't remember what the original terminology was.
Revenue replacement.
Right. That was just in terms of the reporting of it, but the actual expenditure of it, I think those parameters still are set.
Yeah, I'd have to confirm that.
Yeah, because
I think a lot of people would choose that so they didn't have to spend it. But I think those parameters are still set no matter which method you chose.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll confirm that because obviously that would change things.
It would give you the ability to leverage more grant money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Over
absolutely.
time.
And the grant money is definitely out there. So yeah, that's the last meeting, which was great. I mean, it's great to see that list of what people suggested, and in the list of 500, there was a lot of overlap. You could reduce that down to probably about 100 individual things, and then from that, this is a lot of these came out on this list for committee members. Anything else to add to that, Val?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Any other questions from the board on that? Okay. Item 7, review and approval of September 14th minutes. Those are the only ones we have for this evening.
Correct. Yeah, I've made some pretty good progress on September 26th, but not ready for tonight.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the September 14th minute.
Oh, and I want to point out that Joel emailed an additional edit to the minutes in addition to Michelle's edits. Let's see. He said on page 4, the 5th paragraph that says Joel reported from a text message after the word message, he would like it to say from a Bristol resident that the lowest a road can be posted is 25 miles per hour.
Okay, I still make my motion with those
Second.
edits.
Where was that? Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Yep, that's fine. Motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against nay. Motion carries.
All he said was,
All right. Item 8, authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor licenses. Sharon, anything for that this evening?
Accounts payables at 109,787.91. It does include the check for the new PD vehicle. I do have a liquor license. It's the third class where you can, if you want, do it for 6 months. This one is for nomadic chef, DBA tandem. So we've never had any conditions on this. And as far as I know, there's no issues. So if you're fine, I'll go ahead and approve it through the system.
Yep, fine with me.
Fine with that.
All right, thank you very much. Item 9, Select Board Roundtable. Darla.
I do not have anything for this evening.
Michelle.
I'm good for tonight.
Peeker.
I'm good.
And I am good as well. Item 10, Town Administrator's Report. Anything to add, Val?
I just wanted to just briefly run through some of the things listed in my town admin report under other business. There was the revolving loan status report through September. We received the second installment of the opioid allocation. It was about $1,600, a little bit higher than the first payment. And I think that's largely because a lot of the other recipients chose to have theirs allocated to the larger pool and didn't put in for receiving individual payments. So we received that. That'll keep coming.
Is that a monthly thing? What is that then?
I was surprised that maybe it depends on because it's a new fiscal year. Maybe that's why we received it. That's my guess. I don't know what their actual schedule is expected to be.
Okay, and we still need to make a decision as where that money will go.
Correct, and for the moment, it's just gathering, it's collecting, and it's accumulating. So maybe when it's of a good enough volume, it'll be more useful for something.
Okay.
I included an email about stormwater permit thresholds, new permit thresholds that took effect on July 2022.
I have a question on this one, Val. I have this question. How does this affect us with our town project? Like if we put in sidewalks on Munsell Ave, or if we redo Pine Street, because it talks about enlarging the surface by 1/2 acre, that we would have to get this permit and comply with their restrictions.
Right. I do not know how this affects us. That's why I included it on the list and wanted to kind of point it out that this is something that we might need to be paying attention to. And other people too, in their projects. And also to reiterate that we have the groundbreaking for Firehouse Apartments coming up this week, Wednesday, 1:30 at the fire station. The National First Responders Day is October 28th. We received a letter from our bond attorney of increased rates going forward.
Signed with them.
We received a letter from the Tri-Valley Transit for a funding request. It's their annual appropriation request, and the broadband annual report and budget documents.
Can I ask who's going to is anyone from the board going to the Firehouse Apartments groundbreaking?
I have it on my calendar, but I have to work and have to take my kid to an appointment, so it just depends on timing.
I'm not available at that time.
Okay. And Peeker, you're not going to be here, right?
No,
or you're busy, you said this week. Okay. I'll go to that then.
Super. That's all. Well, in addition, aside from the updates I wrote out in my report, I don't have anything else.
Okay, fantastic. That sort of covers our next one, which is correspondence and reports and correspondence received. Do we have any executive session this evening?
I believe we do.
Okay.
Personnel matters.
Alrighty.
I make
Michelle?
a motion, we enter into executive session per 1 VSA section 313 to discuss personnel matters.
Okay.
Second. Sorry. I'm tired.
Nice. All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
All those against, nay. Motion carries. We are now in executive session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jim.
Jimmy, good night,
Hey, Jimmy.
Bruce.